Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fiji Forever, silent podcast, almost spoiler-free recap of Survivor Fiji. While we wait for Survivor 44 to premiere, I will be spending the off-season recapping one of my favorite seasons of all time, Survivor Fiji. Today we'll be covering episode 10, It's the Turtle, which originally aired on April 19th, 2007. Now, this isn't just my favorite episode of the season, it's my favorite Survivor episode of all time. And because of that, this is a very, very important episode to me. And there is no one else I would rather have join me today than my two esteemed guests, Aaron Robertson and Joshua Felix.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh my God, you guys, we have made it. We are on episode 10. We are talking about It's a Turtle. And I have to say that when I started planning out for this podcast, because it's a lot of episodes to fit in a 2-month time span, but I knew that this was the panel I wanted for this episode specifically, because I feel like we all have the same love for Fiji as a whole, but also the love for this episode specifically, because there is equal parts mess and brilliancy in this episode. And I can't think of two better Survivor content creators than you two to join me for this.
Yes. And I have to say off the bat, this is also my favorite Survivor episode of all time for many reasons. And I think one of the biggest ones for me is the editing choices that they made this episode. I feel like, and this is a case with a lot of reality TV shows, is that they're too focused on the mystery of the vote. And I feel like I almost get as much, if not more, enjoyment in being in on the plan, especially if it's a plan that not everybody on the island is in on, which is often the case, especially in modern Survivor. So I just wish they would show us the beats of what happened during the day, because I'm sure this kind of stuff happens more often, but they just kind of, to protect, like, ooh, who's going home, they kind of gloss over that, and we lose a lot of really potentially great material out of episodes that way.
And it's especially well done here because this is, throughout, if we look at strategy in Survivor, this is the beginning of a new level of strategy for the show, a level of strategy that we still see on the show to this day, and we're about to hit 30 seasons later. So the fact they've introduced it this way, showing to the audience, okay, this is now how you can utilize this new aspect of the game so well, and we get to see it in action. Especially, it helps that it's the people we like that get to pull against people we don't like. It's just so well done. This is such an iconic episode. I feel like even if people do not like Survivor Fiji, which questionable taste, but even if they didn't, they have to respect this episode, because this episode is one of the most important things to happen ever in Survivor.
Completely agree with what both of you are saying. I have to say, like, from beginning to end, this episode is a banger for many reasons, like top to bottom, amazingness. But on the surface, it seems like a fairly simple storyline to follow. There are two sides, a couple people that are in the middle, and there are some idols in the works, and we have to figure out how to maneuver them. But seeing how everything plays out here is chef's kiss. The chaos, I think Dreams makes the perfect middleman for this storyline. And I think that seeing the two factions and how they work, it makes the outcome of the episode have a lot more sense at the end. But then also, I don't need it to be a surprise that Edgardo is going home. Like, I think that now we get too focused in on shocking the audience. But episodes like this, I want to be in on the plan. I want to witness the strategy unfold. And some of the best Survivor episodes are ones that we are not surprised by who is going home. Like, it is the story of the season, the story of the characters, and I don't need it to be like the audience is blindsided. I want to see how they maneuver this before my eyes. And I think that is the beauty of It's a Turtle. And the fact that the idols themselves are so easy to digest here. Like, it's there's 2 idols, only one of them is in serious contention to be used, and then the question is, who are they going to play the idol on? And that's it. But it's the players that are given the power to really like play the game, and I think that's something that gets lost in seasons where they are so advantage heavy.
Yeah, and even things that I normally would skip, like the challenges. I think they had 2 really great challenges here. One with I guess I'm going to call it the coconut chop. It's not what it actually is called, but the coconut chop challenge. It's a staple in Survivor, and we also get the birth of what will become a new staple challenge in Survivor history, with the immunity challenge. And I also like how even they were too, because the people that were at the end of the reward challenge were also some of the first people out of the immunity challenge. So it really felt like anybody could win a challenge at any point. And I think that's great game design as well. They really nailed the game design, and with this cast, not the best cast with in terms of Survivor knowledge, but if this cast can make the game shine, like that's a sign of really good game design, I would say.
And the challenges do both lead very well into the story. They do lead into the story of the episode quite well, because we see in that in Coconut Shop, it really highlights who's in a good position on the tribe and who is not based on popularity. But then in the latter challenge, we see that 1 or 2 of those people that aren't maybe as liked are getting hyped up by the tribes. They're still willing to give those people their flowers. And then we ultimately get to see how these disliked people actually end up in a pretty decent spot. Well, some of them.
I have to say that, like, the Lord has not blessed me with the restraint that Stacey Kimball has, because if I got all of those answers for me in touchy subjects, I would burn the camp down unremorsefully. It's like, you can all freeze for all I care, since I'm so unpleasant to be around. But I feel so bad for her. But then, like, she is, in my opinion, she is the star of this episode. Not the star, I shouldn't say that. She is a star of this episode, and she is one of the most impactful players here for multiple reasons. Not just because of her iconic line of, "Why don't we vote out Edgardo?" But then also, she is a swing vote, a potential swing vote, and she goes with the direction that she thinks is going to give her more longevity in the game. And we don't get a lot of screen time from her, but what we do get here is very good, and we haven't gotten a ton of Stacey Kimball content up until this point.
Yeah, I adore Stacey just for her performance in this episode alone, and it's a travesty that she has not been invited back on future seasons, because she's an actual game changer with what she did. Like this. If you ask me what a game changer is, I would show you this episode and say, take a look at Stacey Kimball, because like being called out the way she was, and then using that to pivot and go, okay, let me take a step back. Let me correct my social game here and actually do like have the enough social capital to make a suggestion that changes the course of this entire episode. So great.
Yeah.
Also good for her as well for her, because I know that if I'm her in that situation, looking at who chops her out this challenge, who she goes on to work with, I do not think I'm a calm enough person which I could make this work. But good for her for being able to do the thing that I definitely could not. If 3 people swipe me out immediately, there is no universe I'm voting with those people, even though strategically is the best thing for her. So good for her for being a strategic queen in this moment and not taking it personally, even though she absolutely should.
I know, seriously. Like, I was the swiftness in which she was taken out of this challenge, first of all. And she is so calm through this entire thing, and they're just roasting her for no reason. Like, the 4 horsemen are right there to take some of these answers. And oh my God, I just can't believe, like, Stacey is really a scapegoat in this challenge. And it leads to a lot of good content later on, but this is a lot for me. This is a lot to process, and I am in awe of how well Stacey has been able to maneuver this episode, even though we don't see a ton of her. But I agree, though, like, starting with this challenge and then going to the endurance challenge and then the immunity challenge, I think is really good. We actually get some really funny Exile Island content as well, even though, like, Mookie has no reason to be mad, but, like, he is mad, and that's entertaining for us.
Yeah, like Mookie and Stacey are the best examples of what you should and what you should not do when somebody makes a decision in the game that maybe does not work out well for you.
Especially when, if we look at the two circumstances, on paper, Stacey should have been reacting how Mookie reacted, and Mookie should have been like Stacey. Like, what happened to Stacey was absolutely objectively worse than what happened to Mookie. But here's the one that throws a straw of very disproportionate results, but also starts claiming things which he absolutely cannot achieve no matter how much he wants to.
And okay, and I gotta say, I don't even think Mookie was an answer to anything that we got here.
No.
Like, he wasn't an answer for any of the things here, so he has no reason to be mad. He got sent to Exile Island. He's getting more information about where the idol clue is. And even though he has the idol and he's aware of, like, the chances of who has the idol as well. And even though he's wrong about Earl being the one with an idol, I think that's a fair guess. And just with all of the information that he's been given. So I just find it so interesting that we are, like, his reaction to, like, the most minor inconvenience when he has just played a whole season thus far on the Ravu tribe, which is the epitome of inconvenience.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's
wild.
good. It's wild. And at the center of everything, now I'll get into the rules of the podcast in a second before we really start delving into this episode. But part of what we do here is that we're discussing the All Black Alliance in this season. And I think all 3 of them are, along with Stacey, the stars of this episode. Like, they all have a major role to play here. They are definitely the strategic forces of this episode. And it's their rules that move forward, and they're the ones that really make these big changes happen, particularly with how Earl is calling out kind of like Dream's wishy-washy behavior, and, like, it makes him a little nervous moving forward with him, and also him adapting to the fact that his spy Michelle is no longer there. Cassandra, the winner of the reward challenge, and her excellent picks to join her on the reward.
Yes.
Like, strategic social queen. I love this from her. And then Dreams is our middleman. He is the one making the chaos happen. And he was so good at it. Like, this was, even though they know he's playing the middle, at least the syndicate knows he's playing the middle. No, the 4 horsemen also know that he's playing the middle, but they think they're playing the middle for him, which for them, which is incorrect. But he's really good here with how he's playing the middle and relaying information to both sides in a way that they think that he's playing for them. And I have a lot of questions about, like, the entire after camp segment during the immunity challenge. So I think that's going to be its own, like, 30-minute piece there, because every moment in there is brilliant. However, I do want to also like give the All Black Alliance their props in this episode, even though like, you know, some of it wasn't perfect. We'll talk about it, but I don't care because the glory of this episode, the glory of it, and all accumulating into the results we get with the most amazing reaction gif any Survivor fan could be asking for. You know the one if you have watched Survivor Fiji. I have to say also that if this episode had a subtitle, it would be called The Fall of the Four Horsemen, because this is really when we see what is already a fairly fragile alliance splinter. And Dreams is a legend for breaking up an all-male alliance. Like, how many times have we begged for that in future seasons? Like, please just break up the all-guys alliance. Please, we're begging you. And it happens here. Iconic.
For real though, like Big Brother 5 called, they want their alliance name back. Like,
Isn't that crazy to think about it? Imagine going back and watching Big Brother 5 and they're the good four horsemen. Like, imagine telling a Big Brother 5 viewer that it's going to only get worse from this.
Okay, that's a good question though. So one of the things I asked last episode, because this is where I think that's where the Four Horsemen officially get name dropped, is in the previous episode. And I asked people to rank the Four Horsemen on like any criteria that you want. So let's do that again. And then also, if you can remember the Four Horsemen in Big Brother 5, I would love to hear like your equivalents to the players that we have here. Oh wait, I could go first because I've already talked about mine. I would definitely say, including with this episode, it would be Dreams first, obviously. And then Mookie, even though I think this was really a big fall from grace from him this episode, I think that in another world, like he had some positive moments. And I think that had he made some better choices, he would have been a really compelling player here and in future episodes because he's still in the game. And then I would say Edgardo, because he had the decency to be voted out here. And then Alex, because yes. And then for Big Brother 5, which is actually one of my favorite seasons, I would say, I did like Drew. I think Drew is actually a really good winner. So
and I agree. And I think Drew and Dreams definitely have got a lot of similarity between the two of them.
Yes. I think that Drew is very, like, he is also a very good middleman. Maybe not always to the same level of entertainment as Dreams, but as Big Brother fans, it's like I can't help but respect the game that he played. And then who's the guy that's not Jace or Cowboy? Someone remind me.
Scott, right?
Scott. Okay, yeah,
Scott,
it is Scott.
Yeah.
Okay. They all are so annoying. I guess I would say. Okay, I'll go Jace second because he had some okay moments. And he also had the decency to leave pre-jury. So then I guess Cowboy and then Scott, because like I don't know what to do with the other two. And like Cowboy lasted a little longer and he seemed okay, I guess. But I'm also glad he didn't win over Drew because ridiculous. And Marvin was a king, though, for calling him out in the final jury questioning. So that's what really matters here.
Oh yeah, I probably would flip Mookie and Edgardo in my rankings only because I just felt like Edgardo, watching him, he was the most socially aware. You know, like he totally, I mean, didn't really do anything about it, but at least he did, you know, understand the treatment of Anthony, and was aware that like that was a problem. And there's a moment in this episode where he's talking to Alex, and Alex was like, "Oh, well, Stacey said that she was like too hot or something. Like, is she like, I don't know, is she okay? And Edgardo is like, that means that she's not in on this plan. Like she's not with us. Like, what are you doing? And I was just like, oh, is that what that means? Oh, okay. Like, Edgardo, by probably the smartest and most socially aware of the three that are not dreams. So that's why I would rank them that way. I agree on the BB5 ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dreams is definitely first. Edgardo second. I think Edgardo he's the one we can get rid of swiftly, so we remember the least. Like when I think of Edgardo, the main thing that comes to mind is him getting voted out. So if the first thing I think of is you going home, that makes you better than the other people because I think of things that irritated me. Plus, we did not have to put up with that idle conversation. Edgardo wasn't a part of it, so that makes him better because that whole exchange got on my last nerve. And then the other two, like, is interchangeable. Like, on a different day, I'd rank the two of them differently. They just both irritate me equally, honestly.
Yeah.
This is very fair. I think Mookie had a smoother start to this season in terms of likability. And he was our winner of episode 2 when we were picking our winners for that episode. So, like, I think he had some strong moments that will happen when your tribe goes to tribal council every single time. But yeah, I think like the other three, they could be interchanged every day at some point. But also Edgardo's final words just put a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm just not, yeah. I'm just like, oof, you were probably very annoying to live with on this island. So that's it. That's it. But we are going to talk about the episode, like the full episode with our very extensive recap here, but I just want to reiterate the rules that, as I said in the introduction, this is a spoiler-free podcast, except for one important detail, and that is that there is an all-Black alliance in this season that the edit does not show, so we are going to be writing that wrong and covering it throughout the season, and as we have already covered, they have a big impact in this episode in particular in all of their different roles. So I think Earl, Cassandra, and Dreams all bring something very important to this episode. And I think that it's essential that we discuss it here. Like this is kind of like the moment for this.
Yeah, and there's a scene I'm really excited to talk about with the three of them. We actually get to see the three of them interact for the first time, so I'm excited.
Yes, like just them as a group of three. I have to say before, so we'll talk about it more extensively, but I do want to just add in that like before Earl comes in to interrupt the conversation, the little exchange that Dreams and Cassandra have where Cassandra is saying how like he's being perceived and he's just like, that hurts my feelings. Like this is it was just like the way he says it was so nonchalant, but you know that like him and Cassandra are probably the two closest allies at this point. Like they have a very strong bond between the two of them. So you know this is just them having a one-on-one rapport here. But when she's trying to have this very serious strategic talk with him and he's just like, that hurts my feelings. It's just like I couldn't help but chuckle there. It was so good. So good. Okay. Going into the episode.
Yeah.
We're still dealing with the fallout from many people about Michelle Yee's unexpected elimination here.
Still angry.
Now, so is Mookie. Mookie is pissed that after all of this talk that Dreams has had about wanting to get rid of Stacy, he is looking forward to voting out Stacy. He has been waiting for this day to come. And then he votes out Michelle instead, going with the majority and sending her home, which was not a part of the plan that him and Mookie did. And because there was no time to discuss this before tribal council, Mookie is pissed because he's the only one that voted Stacy with Michelle, and now he looks very bad in terms of the trust amongst the four horsemen. So like Mookie is pissed. He thinks that Dreams has screwed them over. However, and I put this in the notes as well, like Dreams didn't really screw over his game. He screwed over Mookie, but like that's also part of the game. So Can I really be sad about that?
I mean, he says it very well and says it very clearly. He doesn't know. He doesn't know that woman. If you don't know someone at this point in the game, you're not. How are you screwing yourself over by getting rid of that individual? If you don't have a bond with them, to me, it doesn't really make sense to want to work with that person when you've got someone you've got a bond with. When this is not a tight, unified group of people, you've not even been to a tribal council together yet because you've not been to a merge because the merge has not happened. I'm sorry, like that was not a merge. I think we all agreed a merge did not happen. So this is not a unified, close group yet. So how have you? This is not a screw over in any way, and I would say that I'm shocked that Mookie thinks this way, but it doesn't surprise me given what we've seen in previous episodes.
Yeah.
But if this was a normal, rational Survivor player, I'd be like, this is crazy thinking.
And rest assured, like if for some reason Dreams had kept Michelle, I think we have a very different episode here because I really do think maybe he doesn't go right away, but I do think Dreams is much more likely to suffer in the long run because I don't think Mookie's running back to the Four Horsemen at that point because Michelle's still there. And I feel like he would link up with Michelle and Earl and Yao. And, I think we get a whole different tribe dynamic if Michelle is in the game instead of Stacy because Michelle would always be chosen over Dreams by multiple people, I think.
I agree. But then also, I think at this point, once Mookie sees kind of like the writing on the wall, like Michelle is not going to be here, he should be trying to get back in with the syndicate at this point. Because even though, yes, he has been there, he did try to keep Michelle. This little army of 4 that they have here is only going to get more fractured throughout this episode. They don't have the numbers. They don't have the support that they were hoping on with players like Boo and Stacy, who at the beginning of this episode do seem like they are in the middle of everything. Like they just aren't. This is not a group that is good at swaying individuals to be on their side. And they seem so confident in being able to pull in Stacy, and the way that she switched on them so fast, like I have to stand. But then also it's just like that. This is why social game and Survivor is so important. Like Stacy does not feel any obligation to Alex or Edgardo, even though they voted to keep her this previous episode. And she shouldn't. This is not a game where you should be banking in on favors either.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting how, even though maybe it's not said out loud, I feel like a lot of people had the instinct to try to take up Michelle's spot in the alliance. Like I felt like Boo was trying to do that. Stacy definitely was trying to do that. And ultimately Dreams is trying to do that as well. I'm surprised that Mookie didn't do that, or at least think of that, or at least go to, the syndicate members and be like, well, I tried to save Michelle. Like I'm the one person that tried to keep her in the game. Like I'm with y'all. Let's work. He was just so blinded by being sent to maybe if he wasn't sent to exile, he would have had that instinct to stick with the syndicate. But anyway, yeah.
But I think, and like, as we said, Cassandra made really good choices here for who she brought with her to the reward challenge this episode. But I think players like Dreams, who they know is going to be really valuable ally to Cassandra throughout the game, but he has the information on the other side. She wants to re-solidify her relationship with him, their strategic partnership in this game. I think Boo is another middleman that you really need to secure on your side, especially for this crucial vote. And Yao Man is more so at this point Earl's ally than Cassandra's ally based on what we have seen so far. And I think even though she says in her confessional that she just feels like Yao Man really needed a break, I think it's also just like that. Why not? Why not re-solidify with your friendship with players that aren't necessarily as close with you in your alliance as they are with other players. Like, I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone that Earl and Yao Man are really good friends here.
Yeah. I want to talk about the reaction of the other half of the tribe when they come back.
Wait. So
Yeah.
I agree. Before we get into that, I do want to just ask you two, like, Dreams picking Stacy over Michelle here. Like, good or bad decision, and why?
I think it's overall for Dream specifically, it's a great decision. Mostly because often in these split tribe scenarios, it's a good time to get out people that it would be hard to get rid of later. And I really do think that Michelle, if she stayed, would have been harder to get rid of, especially with the makeup of the tribes. This was probably one of the only opportunities they would have had to vote out Michelle. And also, selfishly, without this happening, we don't get this episode. But but yeah, I think for Dream specifically, it's good for him, but bad for everybody else.
And I think because part of why we all hate this twist so much is because Michelle is in such a good position to get sniped out when she can't do anything about it. And the reason we hate it is the reason why it was such a good move for him, because he managed to snipe out someone that is going to be difficult. And I think because they go straight to tribal council, it's easier to explain and justify to people why he made that decision, because it was just heat of the moment. He explains it well in confessional, where it's like, she said something that annoyed me. So you can just say that to other people as well. So it's easy to justify. You're sniping someone that's in close and you could potentially get in close with them. This is the perfect decision because of the perfect circumstances were presented to him to be able to execute this move.
Yeah. Both are excellent points here. I do want to just reiterate something that we discussed last episode as well, is that Dreams in his confessional says that it's because she said at tribal council that she didn't know Dreams very well. And that is what clicked and said, yes, like that, she's right. I don't know her. I don't know Michelle. So why would I keep her around? The real reason that this happened, and it's just something that I want to continue into this episode, is that this was not a spur of the moment decision from Dreams. This was a very calculated decision on his part, and part of the reason this happened is because Dreams, I don't know if he made the decision at this point that he was definitely going to flip, but he wanted the option to, and he wants to take Michelle's position in the syndicate so that he is a more valuable member. If you have a member like Michelle, maybe she still goes before Dreams, but she is so well solidified in this alliance. It's going to be much harder to take her out and take her place further down the line in this season for Dreams than the opportunity that he was presented now, where he knows that Alex and Edgardo are definitely voting Michelle to keep Stacy. And Stacy, as we have seen, really is struggling socially at this point in the game. And while I think she makes incredible headway here, this is someone that'll be a lot more easier for Dreams to take out. Like, I don't think this will be the only opportunity to get Stacy out moving forward, where I think like this literally may have been the only time Michelle Yee was vulnerable, or at least more vulnerable than Dreams. So I agree, this is definitely the right decision for Dreams. This is probably the only, like, this vote out probably is only good for Dreams specifically, because Stacy does not stick with the people that ended up voting to keep her, as she shouldn't. We love her for it. And I think that this is really the only two people this works for are Dreams and Stacy. And that's kind of how you want it. If you're going to make a big move like this, make sure it benefits you more than anybody else on the tribe. So even though I'm still very sad that Michelle left in that way, and I will still be campaigning for her return on Second Chances too, I think that this was the right move here for Dreams and for Stacy. Now, let us get into how Alex and Edgardo react to the fallout of this past tribal council. Aaron, I know you said you wanted to talk about it, so I will let you start off.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I guess I'll start with the whole Four Horsemen side of this. Wookie, the conversation between Wookie and Alex, and this is another reason why it was good for Dreams, because it perfectly sets him up as a middleman, because he showed, I'm loyal to the Four Horsemen, but I'm also making a decision that puts me in a better position with the other side as well. And now we have a fall guy, because Mookie is the lone person that voted differently from everybody else. So Mookie has to justify to Alex and Edgardo, hey, yeah, when we said we were going to vote out Michelle and you didn't do that? How come you didn't do that? Just Alex's whole philosophy with the idol is so weird to me. And I don't know if this was in the rules at the time, but you could play an idol for somebody else, right?
Yes. So
okay. So then
in the second, so I was not sure about this. And I only remember this from this current rewatch, because I thought it was so weird that they were so obsessed with passing the idol back and forth to each other. But in the second episode, which is the first tribal council that it would have been possible for an idol to be played here, Jeff says, basically, it's the same rules that we have always had now from this point forward. You play the idol after the votes are cast, but before the votes are read.
Yeah.
And he does specifically say you can play the idol for yourself or somebody else. So it was always an option for just Mookie to have the idol and play it for whichever person he thinks is going home here.
Yeah. I have to say, Alex was really dense. After this tribal council, he was like, "Oh," when talking to Mookie, and Mookie's, giving his excuses, and Alex is like, "Oh, I guess it was a miscommunication, but we're gonna have to have the idol. Each person's gonna have the idol a day at a time. You have it one day, I'll have it the next day, and if you don't give me the idol, you're basically saying screw the Four." Which, on so many levels, is so so many things wrong with everything about that conversation. But yeah, I would say definitely the syndicate handled it a lot better, and I wrote down everything that was said that Earl's had to say about it. But yeah, it was crazy.
I feel like even if he thinks all of these things, why do you tell this to that person? You don't say this to that person. It doesn't make any sense to think it. But you're going to tell the person that has the idol in hand, if you don't give this to me, I can't trust you. What? In what universe does this make any sense? Because now that person with the idol, they're now definitely at that stage. If someone tells that to me, I'm no longer working with you. Even if it makes sense, I'm not working with you. I'm not playing this idol on you. I'm not doing any of that kind of nonsense. I'm ditching you. I'm leaving you because I'm telling everyone vote this person out. Crazy conversation to be had. And again, I know a lot of these people had not really seen any Survivor before, but just logically, you wouldn't say this to someone.
And we see how fickle Mookie is in this episode. If somebody does him wrong, he will hold that against you for the entire. So Alex really almost, by the grace of Cassandra, Alex really dodged the bullet here. Because I really do think that after that conversation, Mookie was done. But Alex, I really do think that he was done.
This was a wild discussion to have with supposedly one of your closest alliance members. And first of all, to suggest essentially a chore chart with the idol, and he's saying Mookie that you're not you found the idol, but you're you're just technically the person.
Yeah, we were all digging.
You were just the first person to touch the idol. Mookie knows damn well this is his idol. He has said it multiple times. He is not taking this to be the tribe idol or the alliance idol like they believe that it is. But Alex is really harping on this now, and I don't know why this would be the time for him to do it, since he did get his way here. And why would Mookie want to keep Stacy over Michelle? He can just say, I knew Michelle more. I really didn't want her to go here. But obviously that wasn't going to work with Alex specifically. But one, Mookie has the idol. So whether or not you like it, you should probably not piss the person off that has the idol of your alliance here. And then second of all, Mookie has way more connections currently than Alex does. He has lived with all of the Ravu members that are still left. And they have fairly strong connections with not Mookie, Boo and Stacy, who they've just spent X amount of days on it, and the tribe swap on the new Moto tribe. And Alex has maybe Stacy, maybe Boo, Edgardo, and himself. He doesn't have dreams like he thinks he does. And the more that he pushes this idea that Mookie should be giving the idol to Alex, he's not going to have Mookie in this scenario. So at the most, he has 4 people, and only one of them end up actually coming through for him. And I think that his personality, from what we have seen in the reward challenge, is definitely rubbing some people the wrong way, and how he talks to people and how he tries to persuade, really more so like force people to play his way. And I think this is where we start to see, like, I think they wanted us to think of Alex as a strategic force in the game, but the more difficulties that come his way, the worse he acts.
Also, Alex feeling like he has any kind of ownership of his idol is really annoying, considering the way that the idol is found. Like, because what? It's a situation where he uses a clue that someone else gave him to find this idol, and then decides to tell other people. This is on you at this point. You could have gone and found this idol and tell individuals. If you want to do this whole group idol search, you should have been aware that this could have happened to you. You brought this all on yourself. You did not need them to find the idol because you had the information, you had the clues. Go and do it, and then just show them you've got the idol. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's really annoying.
My favorite part of this is when Mookie is relaying this information to Dreams in frustration because he's mad that Alex is asking him this. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to say? And Dreams just says, you're supposed to tell him no. Like, this is so obvious to and Dreams has seen probably about the same amount of Survivor as Mookie and Alex, which is not a lot, and if any. And it seems very obvious to everyone that is not Mookie or Alex in this scenario that you just tell him, no, fuck you. Like, you either work with me or you don't, but I'm the one with an idol, and I'm the one that probably has a better chance of flipping over to the other side. I cannot believe Mookie still went this hard for the 4 horsemen after this discussion, but it was Cassandra sending him to Exile Island that was like, no, this is the final straw. He has probably known Cassandra. He has known Cassandra for all of 2 days at this point. Like,
not even.
Not even. They literally they have never been on the same tribe because Cassandra was always Moto and Mookie was always Ravu. They have not had like maybe they had some conversations in like those 3 days that they were all just like chilling, but they have not met. And it is Cassandra sending him to Exile Island that is like, that is it. That is it. Alex may have tried to take my idol. Dreams has betrayed me like at every chance that he has gotten, but I draw the line at being sent to an island where all of the idol clues are. This is wild behavior from them.
Crazy. Also, can you imagine, like, let's just also say there could have been a scenario where the Moto tribe idol was not found yet. And you mean to tell me that, like, you would turn down a trip to Exile? Now, granted, when he gets to Exile, he's like, oh, well, these clues, I mean, the clues are just blatantly obvious. And saying it 6 different ways of saying it. It's in the cave. But, you know, there still was a chance.
Yeah.
And because he had the Ravu idol, it's not like the idol information is leaking anywhere. I just, yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's useful. It helps confirm that they know that someone on that other tribe has an idol, so at least it gives them that form of confirmation as well. And also, if we're being real, we've seen that in this season, Exile Island, to me, does not seem that much worse than the living conditions he's out on Ravi. So, like, this is just like normal at this point. And the new Moto camp isn't that nice either because everything got cleared out. So, like, get over it. This isn't that much of a downgrade.
I believe Earl has said that it was better than the Ravu camp. So, like, this is...
Well, there's a hut you could sleep in.
Yes.
Like, I mean, yeah.
And you get fire, which Ravu did not have for like 7 days. So, like, this is a step up from what Mookie dealt with for the first half of the game. He should be thanking Cassandra for such luxury. Oh my God, it's a crazy start to it. On the opposite side of things, before we get into the reward challenge, is Earl, who did not, and I do want to reiterate here that, like, Earl definitely, like, this vote out did not go the way that he would have liked because Michelle was such a valuable ally to him. And yes, this did not go the way Mookie had wanted as well. But Mookie, as we have said before, is not powerless in this scenario. He has an idol. He does have some options if he wanted to pursue going back to some of his other tribe mates here, or trying to maneuver something with Dream specifically, like work on forging that bond with the other player that feels like an outsider within the Four Horsemen. And he is going to get all of the clues from Exile Island in this visit. And I just find it crazy how, like, all of his options that he has here, because he was not without options, he was not without power, that he kind of did exactly what he shouldn't have done in all of these instances. He held grudges. He wanted to stick with the boys so bad that he was willing to give away the piece of power that he did have, which was the idol that was his. If you find the idol, if you touch the idol first, it is your idol. And that is all of the reasoning that Mookie needs in this situation. And he berates Dreams for not doing what was best for Mookie. And I just think that, you know, his ability to bounce back from things not going his way for so long is just like, it is coming to a head here, even though he wasn't the player that was voted out this episode. It's just like, this is really bad episode for Mookie's game in particular. And on the other side of things, Earl, who did lose one of, if not his most valuable ally here, is like, this is where we start seeing his adaptability in full force. Like, obviously he was on Ravu, so he knows what it's like to not have things go his way in the season, but he takes this as an opportunity to really just, like, rearrange the chessboard. And, like, he was using chess analogies here for how he is looking at his alliance. So they've been working on pulling Boo in to be a vote on their side, and now Stacy as well. Like, I think that while we don't get a ton of Yao-Man Stacy content, it does seem like he has really good rapport with her from how he was explaining that they want to vote out Alex originally. And that, like, his core group of Yao-Man and Cassandra, and now pulling in Dreams to replace Michelle here, like, this is a pretty solid plan going forward. It's the plan that the Four Horsemen wanted to do, with having, like, their core alliance and then have the core alliance bring in members. So, like, this is really impressive, especially from someone that has not seen Survivor before this episode.
Yeah, and is it possible for me to read some of the confessional that he did?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Because I feel like this highlights a lot of like what Earl is doing at this point. So he gives his confessionals while he's talking to Boo, and it's like, when Boo and I had our man-to-man talk and looked each other in the eye, and he said he's with me, I still didn't buy it. And Boo is just trying to save his own neck at all times. But I need to know if he's with us. I mean, because we basically need his vote since we don't have Michelle. Basically, the main core is myself, Yao, and Cassandra. I trust them completely. Dreams is definitely a wild card, and I don't know if I trust Mookie all the way yet, because he's already kind of, He tries to manipulate a lot as well. It's a part of that chess game where you've already lost a couple of really good pieces, and now you really have to think. You can't trust everybody, but I like playing this game, and I am still here. So I feel like, because we didn't really get a lot of the Boo and Earl dynamic, but knowing that they have talks each morning shows that at least there's something going on there. And the fact that Earl is even mentioning Mookie here, like, it was very possible that Mookie could have eclipsed Dreams if he really wanted to. Again, like, he was right there. Like, he really could have, easily taken Michelle's place if he had, shown to be more trustworthy with than Dreams. But yeah, he just threw that away. But
I do enjoy the fact that someone that had the potential of being in a bad position is in a bad position because they decided to stick with the boys' brigade. Like, they had a path moving forward, but their option to opt into a boys' alliance is what gets them in a bad state of affairs. That is brilliant. We need more of this. Like, I don't have a problem with there being all guys alliance on Survivor as long as they fail. Like, I don't want to see a successful all guys alliance. That's not good television. But watching them come together and lose, fabulous. That needs to happen more often.
It really does. It really does.
It's just because these are just like, they want to be aligned with the bros. Like, they are just having a field day in this alliance. They loved being on a tribe with all guys, and like the fact they didn't have to deal with women, like, because God forbid. And it is just so nice to see like the slow burn of this alliance crashing and failing, and not because they got unlucky. This is entirely their fault because there are so many things that they could have done differently here. I think part of the reason that players like Earl and Cassandra are able to sway players that may not have been initially loyal to them is because half of the reason is because they're nice. Like, Earl is particularly Cassandra, who seems like some of the things, like some of the decisions she's made here, or she always seems to have a nice word for someone. Even in her voting confessionals, she was incredibly worried about Papa Smurf because this was a dream for him, but that he wasn't, like, she was worried about his health and how nervous like he was to move forward in the game. She wanted to give Yao Man a break and wanted to bring him on the reward with her. Then I think that her and Stacy are having like a fairly good relationship now, and we'll see a little more of that along the way. And we have, like, obviously Sure and Dreams were a very tight duo and a formidable force here. And I think like part of this reason is that like they are nice and they treat their allies well, and not like soldiers that need to follow exactly what they need to do here. Like, this is part of their power here. It's just the fact that they have a better approach to persuading people to make the choices that they want them.
Yeah.
Speaking, oh yeah, wait, no, you go ahead first.
Yeah, and actually I was gonna say, I think also on this rewatch, I feel like I understand Boo a lot more. And I'm actually really thankful that the swap divisions happened the way they did, because just from this episode, it seems like Boo is a very loyal player, even if Earl didn't buy that Boo wanted to work with him at first. The kind of language that Boo tends to use, like, oh, well, they're all backstabbers. Like, I believe in his word when he's talking about Dreams later. Like, he's like very, like, if he gives you his word, he's with you. And I'm really glad that he was on motive the whole time, because I cannot imagine if he had been with any of those boys on the opposite side. Like, I feel like I think he's more over with them because he wants to stick with the people that he's loyal to or whatever. So I'm glad that, in this division, it worked out so that, Boo was not as loyal to those four horsemen.
That's the swap in Survivor Fiji really does what it needs to do. The awful people that are gonna make the merge end up over there, and then they have this episode where things go badly for them. Like, although that swap episode is, this whole swap period is a bit exhausting, having to watch this group of people and the way they are for that solid 3-episode block. For them to have their comeuppance here, it makes it all worth it. I like to think that Anthony sits at home and watches this episode like regularly. Whenever he thinks about how awful those people was, and they just watch the faces of that tribal council, it all becomes worth it.
Oh, I wish he was at this tribal so bad. It would have been so good.
Anthony should have been mayor of Ponderosa, and I stand by that. Like, if he could not still be in the game as a player, he should have been on the jury. Like,
it would have made sense. Jury at 12 doesn't make any sense in any universe. Jury at 13 just sounds much better.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And I don't like, actually, yeah, it would have made more sense at 13 anyway, because, okay, we won't spoil like too much of like the placements, but this is a final 3. So yeah, a 9-person jury in a final 3 is so stupid. I don't know why I'm even more mad now. Wait a minute. I have never done the math on this on like how many people were still in the game, but yeah, now I hate it even more. Let Anthony be on the jury. I hate
like,
these people. Oh my
like
God.
It's not one episode after the swap. Like it's very bizarre.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. Like
and they didn't even align the merge with the jury, because like the first 2 jurors are pre-merge. So yes, now I'm even more pissed off about this. I hate this for me. Okay. Side note. All right. Are we ready to talk about my favorite reward challenge ever here? Guys, touchy subjects. I love it. So the coconut, there is a difference between the coconut chop, which I don't know if there's like a specific name for it, but the coconut chop.
Oh, it's more like a trivia thing, right? Yeah.
So the coconut chop is like what we see in Marquesas, also a very iconic episode of an iconic season, where they asked trivia about Marquesas and like Marquesian culture and in that episode, and then once they answer correctly, you get to chop whichever player that whatever player's like rope or like, I think in this case it was like they were like stands or something, like little clay stands or something like that.
Yeah, stacked breakable tiles. Yeah,
tiles. Okay, yeah, I'll just call it tiles for like clarification. But in Marquesas, they would like chop a rope, and then once your rope got chopped 3 times, then you were out. But that was all trivia based. Touchy subjects is where they ask all of the players questions about their castaways, and you assign, like, it's basically like superlatives. So we get some here, like, who would you trust with your life? Who would you want to be on a deserted island with? And I think some of these were like fairly obvious answers to it. Like pretty much everything that Yowman got an answer for, I was like, well, duh. I can't believe anyone got that wrong. But then someone like, but then they start getting into like, who do you not want to bring to a family dinner? Who has wasted this opportunity? Who is entitled here? And that's when things start getting very juicy, and it gives people an idea of how the majority thinks about you. So the actual game itself starts after people have placed their votes. And once Jeff reads the superlatives, you pick the person that you think got the majority, which is not necessarily who you voted for. And if you pick the majority answer correctly, you get to smash a tile. If you smash 3 tiles, then you are out. That's how that goes. So touchy subjects, I think, like, while the coconut chop on Marquesas did what it was supposed to do, touchy subjects is so vile, so like so twisted, and can be so mean. It's the perfect challenge for this point in the game, and it's specifically as a reward challenge because it's a combination of popularity and managing your threat level and knowing the people around you and what their opinions are here. And it was so good here. So good. I'm obsessed here. Do we want to just go through some of the categories here?
Yeah, there's a couple.
Because there's some decisions that I'm like, why did they do that?
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna go through. So also I actually really like the reward here too, because the winner gets to spend the night on a 70-foot luxury yacht with barbecue, a comfy bed, and drinks. They also get to send one person to exile. So I think like this is a pretty solid reward for like
yeah.
old school
Mhm.
Survivor times. Like this is
yeah.
the kind of award, any reward where I can get drunk is like the perfect Survivor reward to me, but the overnight rewards feel so special to me. All right, let's go into the category. So the first one, which I already said before, is who would you trust with your life? The answer is Earl. And all three, so the people that get it right are Cassandra, Boo, and Yauman. And they all chop Stacy. And Cassandra seemed like she was not sure what to do. I feel like she was like, oh, I have to start it off. Like, do I just pick someone? So she picks Stacy, and then Boo and Yauman just fall like right behind her. And so Stacy is out after this.
Do you think this was a good decision? Because to me, this is crazy to pick Stacey in this situation. I feel like given the dynamics of the game, you don't pick someone that has the potential to want to flip after three people, all in the alliance you're trying to get her into, all strike her out.
Part of me thinks that Cassandra was not thinking that that Boo and Yauman were going to follow right in her footsteps. So like, I don't know if it was necessarily like, I don't think this was just Cassandra being naive to like, oh, I'm just going to pick anyone possible. But I do think she did not foresee Boo and Yauman just doing the same thing as her right afterwards. I do, however, think she should have just chopped someone that she knows she is not going to work with, like Alex or Edgardo. I think that's the move to do. But I mean, it still kind of works out for her. So like I can't be too disappointed in her for that. But I do think Stacy is kind of a wild choice here.
Yeah.
And then next one is who are you least likely to invite to a family dinner? The answer being Boo. And they do Cassandra, Mookie, Dreams, and Alex are all right. And Cassandra chops Alex. Good job, Cassandra.
Makes
She's
sense.
learning. And then the guys all chop Boo, which is also a crazy decision
That's
someone that is
the one.
but yes.
That's the
And
one
then
I was
Boo
like,
is
what?
out. One of the things, so I wonder why they picked Boo specifically, because there are other people I would much less likely to want to come to a family dinner than Boo. I feel like Boo's fine so far.
Does Boo eat messily? Like, does he eat with his mouth
That's what
open
I
or
would-
something?
I thought maybe it was the volume of stuff that he would eat. Like maybe he eat more than ever. That was the vibe that I got.
So
Also, very clumsy. Maybe he'd like set the.
Oh, that's true. He breaks the good china.
Yeah.
I was thinking because initially when I heard this question, my thought process was, okay, this is someone that you don't want to have meet your family, which I have a couple people in mind for this answer that are not Boo. And so yeah, but then once I saw the answer, I was thinking that like, yeah, maybe it was like he eats a lot or he's a very messy eater, but like he's fine so far.
And I mean, good on Dreams for being aligned with Alex and Edgardo and keeping up that facade here. Oh wait, did I say Alex and Edgardo? I meant Alex and Mookie. Alex and Mookie and chopping Boo. But for Alex and Mookie, I just find it so wild. Of all the people that you would chop Boo first, especially when like there's more obviously people that you are not with that you could chop. I just feel like chopping Boo here is just gonna further cement to Boo that like there's no reason for me to join back up with my previous Moto people. Like clearly they want nothing to do with me. Got it.
Yeah.
I think for them, their best chop is probably Cassandra, simply because Cassandra is just expressing this challenge is going for Alex. You can logically assume who she's going for next. Get her straight out of that challenge. The three of you get rid of her.
Oh my god. I feel like the fact no one really thought to go after someone that they know they are not going to be aligned with. Part of it is amazing because it just makes for really good television. And like it's fun. The best touchy subjects to me are ones where people don't really fully realize what's going on here. Like when people are truly honest with their answers. And it can be an easy one to game, but for this iteration of touchy subjects is so fun to me. And then we get to, but then, okay, so here is where things start getting a little juicier. Who has a sense of entitlement? This would have been my choice too. Alex
Yes.
was the majority answer, but only Cassandra and Mookie were correct here. And Cassandra chops Alex, and then Mookie chops Earl. I feel like Mookie, so I think these are both good choices for them. But then I don't, even though, like, I guess because Mookie is now committed to the Four Horsemen, but also, like, I think he still has that idol discussion in mind because the fact that these are the only two that get this right are crazy to me.
Well, no, I think here too, I think at this point, I think Mookie is just as in the middle as Dreams, at least at this point in the challenge, especially with the fact that like he clearly is like, yeah, Alex is very entitled. I'm angry at him for this idol talk. Like I want nothing to do with him. Like I'm not voting with him for this. 'Cause I do think that Mookie at this point is more central than any side, at least right now.
Yeah.
I also love with this prompts that Alex doesn't pick himself. Like, doesn't tell him that he can be entitled. That's always the best one when people get a really bad prompt and they don't say themselves.
Where do you remember what Alex picked for this? Or who Alex picked?
Oh, God. I don't.
I feel like, did some people pick Stacey for this one? Because I feel like there are some people.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Some people just, if it was bad, it was about Stacey.
Yeah, that's true. That was a good default choice considering how many ones she gets here. Starting with this next, oh wait, no, there's one more. Who would you like to be stranded on a deserted island with? And the answer was Yao Man. I think this is probably the most obvious one.
The answer
of the entire and everyone but Alex gets it right. Yeah.
Like he's really like I don't think I've ever seen somebody show just how out of touch they are with everything with Alex's performance in this challenge. It's just like completely off.
He got
it was
one
so
question
bad.
right. One question.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, it was wild here. So, and then because so many people got it right, we have Edgardo, Dreams, Cassandra, Earl, Mookie, and Yao Man. And Edgardo and Mookie chop Earl, so Earl is out. Dreams does the last chop for Alex. Earl and Cassandra chop Mookie, and Yao Man chops Edgardo, and then Earl and Alex are out here. Which I think Alex was never going to win this at this point because like he's again his performance this challenge is pitiful. But I think getting Earl out here is probably like a fair person to target here. So I think that's fine. I think like that's a good choice in there. Now, who do you not want to see again after the game? This is a brutal question. Absolutely brutal. So, of course, Stacey is the answer to this one.
Yeah.
And Edgardo, Dreams, Cassandra, Mookie, and Yao Man are all right.
Isn't that literally everyone that's in the challenge?
That's everyone left. Yes.
I mean, that was a gimme question. Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Edgardo and Dreams chop Yao Man. Cassandra chops Mookie. Mookie chops Cassandra. I think this is the first chop that Cassandra gets on the game. And then Yao Man chops Dreams, and Mookie is out. I think Mookie actually had a pretty impressive showing up until he was out, but he's just kind of on the wrong side of the coin right now. So, like, and I think Cassandra, because she is getting every question right here, that, like, she's not going to target Dreams. and until she has to, which is what happens here. So obviously she is going to go for Mookie when she has the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah. Who smells the worst?
This would
And-
upset me more than the previous statements. This is the one that would upset me the most. Like the other ones, that's a judgment. Just saying that you smell. Like, what do you do about that? What do you do when someone says that about you?
But like,
At least he
they
was
all
aware.
smell. Yeah,
They-
they all smell because none of them I mean, I guess Moto has showered, you know, or they had a shower when they still had the nice gap. But like, of everyone there, I smell the worst of everybody that is there. And of course, like, Dreams is aware that he was the answer, and him and Cassandra are both right. So Cassandra also seems to be aware of this. This is so, I don't know. I would hate to get this as the answer I would hate to be the answer for this question.
Yeah, I guess I would change everything in my routine of what I'm showering with.
How do you even fix that? How like you don't have toiletries over there. You don't have toiletries anymore, at least. So like, how do you fix that? That doesn't
make
seem
an
like
agreement to be taken on reward so that you could take a shower?
That's true. That's a good one. I think I would be most upset with
I mean, there's one that I would be upset with more.
I think,
but yeah.
I think the problem is that this is the only one that's embarrassing to happen to you on national television. The other ones would feel worse in the moment, but the other ones, when you're watching at home, you'd get over it. I don't think I'd get over that one. Like, everyone watching at home is like, this person smells. Like, what? Like, when people meet me for the first time, they're going to have that in mind.
Yeah, I'd be like, ooh, let me not get too close. Yeah.
Like, imagine someone sees you on a dating app and then they see you on Survivor Fiji and they watch that and they learn that you smell before they even met you. Like, that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Or they would be on you to make sure that you shower, like, or clean yourself, because I don't want to smell your natural BO. I don't need that.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Next one is who mistakenly believes they are in charge of the game. I can't believe Alex does not have like a come to Jesus moment after this round, because pretty much everything where any question about like being overly cocky in the game, the answer is Alex. And then Alex continues to be an ass after this challenge as well.
It's so wild. This is the question that I would be the most upset about, because it would be telling me that people like kind of write me off in the game because they think I'm like have an overvalued sense of self. And I would make sure to correct that. Or at least this would tell me that I don't have the control that I think I do, and I need to fix it. And Alex is just, throughout this entire challenge, getting questions wrong, not really reacting to any of the questions that are about him, just really just like not even registering or using the information to his advantage. And you would think, somebody that is very described by the tribe as being very full of themselves, very entitled, would be maybe aware of like other people's perception of it. Maybe I don't know.
I think this is where the sense of entitlement comes from.
Apparently.
For Alex. This is like he sees himself as someone that is running the game, someone that has a lot of power and a power of persuasion. His moniker at the very beginning of this season is the Harvard educated lawyer. So we're supposed to think that like this is one of the like intelligent rivals of the game. But the more we see it with him, the more out of touch he is with how to interact with his tribe mates. He treats a lot of his competitors here like they are criminals almost, and like how he talks to them, like he treats it like this is a courtroom instead of actually a competition that relies on social game. And I think this is where a lot of, when we talked about this in previous episodes too, where it seems like Alex was really thinking about like the right thing to say to people a lot of the time, or the right thing to say to the camera when he has confessionals, and it just doesn't come off as very genuine, I think, a lot of the time. And when we see someone like Cassandra, who is someone that seems to genuinely care about the people around her, that like you can just feel that she is kind of speaking from the heart a lot of the times. And I think that's something that Alex is really missing. He's thinking about what is the nice thing or the best thing to say here to make him look good, but he doesn't like his words and how he puts those words into practice are like very different.
In the game of Survivor, like strategic aspects of it, like that's the kind of stuff like you can sit and figure it out. Like the social aspects of the game, you kind of there's an element of it you just have to just naturally have. Like if you just don't have that element of charisma as a person, it's not going to work for you. That's not something you can teach or develop. You can utilize your charisma well to have the right conversation with right people, but it needs to naturally be there. And as you were saying, if it doesn't come across as genuine, if it comes across as his conversations, they seem like they're very transparent. Like you're having a conversation with someone, you're saying the right things, but that person can see right through and can see the exact intentions behind it. And if people know why you're saying these things to them, then the words you're saying don't have the power that they're meant to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really well said. And so for this, Cassandra is the only person right here. And the only 3 people left at this point are herself, Dreams, and Edgardo. So she chops Edgardo with her answer, and Edgardo is out. So now the final 2 is herself, Cassandra, and Dreams. And what a great final 2 for a reward challenge. Like, I love this for them. So well, we'll just like go right through these 2. Who has wasted this great opportunity? It is Stacy, and Cassandra is right here, and she chops Dreams because that's her only option. And then athletically, who out here has surprised you the most? Cassandra is right. I am shocked that Dreams did not also pick a Yao Man. I feel like this is like the obvious answer here, but Cassandra is right. She chops Dreams. Dreams is out, and Cassandra wins reward. She did not get a single question wrong here.
Yes.
Not one. She got everything right. A perfect score. Like, I'm in awe of her. This is the challenge that I would love to get everything right for. And she wasn't an answer to any of the questions that we saw. So I think like that overall, that is like a good position to be in here. And I just think that's amazing. Like, I'm so happy for her. And I think that Cassandra is the correct person to win this challenge. Like, I think that she genuinely did win over Dreams. But I think if I'm Dreams and I see that I am going to have to pick people to go on reward in the position I'm in, it's like I am throwing this immediately.
But also, so I forget, did Jeff tell them that they were going to get to pick people? He didn't tell them we're going to get to pick people, right? Until after the reward challenge. And these people are not versed enough in Survivor to know. Like, it would genuinely not surprise if they just thought that Cassandra was just going to go by herself and just be by herself.
Yeah.
But I guess with us knowing you have to pick people, I know if I'm playing Survivor, I don't want to win this reward challenge. If I had to pick people, it's not happening. I don't care who's there. I don't care if I see my parents on the other side of there. I'm not trying to win this challenge. Nobody's important enough.
Yeah.
And also, good job to Cassandra for being the only person to get all the questions right, even though there were people that were only there for 1 and 2 questions, and even they could not get all of their questions correct.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like it's so impressive to get everything right for a challenge like this, because she has to really think about everybody that is still left in the game and like what their perspectives are on each contestant. So I do think that like this is incredibly impressive on Cassandra's part for getting a perfect score on something as volatile as touchy subjects. And I am just like, this is her shining moment in the episode for me. This and the aftermath of this challenge. The one thing that I wish we got more of, because otherwise this is a perfect episode to me. I would love to have heard Stacy or some of these other players' reactions to some of the answers that they got here. But we did not get that here, sadly. Again, as I said, I would burn down the camp if I was Stacy. So she is a much better player than me. But Cassandra has 2 important decisions here. one of which she does not make right away, which are she gets 3 boarding passes with her and she gets to pick 3 people to bring with her on the reward, and she makes that decision back at camp. And I really like the decision she made here. The other one that she makes is sending Mookie to Exile Island. And Mookie is pissed on here. Like, pissed off. And he really has no right to be. It's just a very weird thing to be pissed off at this point. But I think we're still in an era where Exile Island has not fully, especially with this cast, that they're treating Exile Island as like a punishment or a place to weaken your competition instead of an opportunity to go like strengthen your game, to gain more information here. So Mookie is pissed off at the fact that he is going to Exile Island, and his whole segment at Exile Island is basically him just saying how pissed off he is. He gets the idol clues and he's like, any idiot could find this. And then he swears revenge on Cassandra at some point. Like, he is just so against Cassandra, so anti-Cassandra at this point. And Mookie, what are you doing? This is not the time. This is really not the time for his game to be deciding, you know who I hate because they sent me here? Cassandra, who has way more social capital than me in this game. Way more.
And you know the phrase that really got to me in his confessional? It's when he said, Cassandra is quiet, but in a deceiving, conniving way. She just made the worst mistake of her life. Where? You literally merged the day before. They went to tribal council. Y'all were separate. It's the morning of the next day, and you had this like when in that time did you have quiet but in a deceiving, conniving way? You haven't even had a tribal council together yet. You've had no reason. And let's say he got influenced by the other members of the Four Horsemen. It's not like she was on top of her game in that tribe either, because she was in the minority. So conniving where? Deceiving where? Where is this? I think the vitriol is so weird to me.
I sat there and listened to it. I was like, is it because she is black, or is it because she is a woman, or is it a combination of both? I was like, there's some kind of underlying something going on there. Like, it's such a weird remark. Like, if someone like Boo was quiet, like, I don't think he says that about them. Like, there's something going on there. I don't know what exactly. I can't pinpoint it, but something feels very off with this statement.
The fact that he's mad at Cassandra for potentially getting him more information in the game by sending him to Exile Island. And he's more mad at that than Alex literally trying to create a custody battle over the idol that Mookie found. It makes me think that this is a gender thing, since Mookie was so proud about voting out all of the women on his tribe earlier. And I just and that's one of the things that is unfortunate about this season and the seasons where a lot of women go early on in the game. But I think Mookie doesn't like that a woman made this decision for him. This was good. And I think that there are certain people here that look at players like Cassandra as players that don't deserve to be there, or they don't think of them as strategic forces in this game. But not only did she just kick ass in the challenge, she is in a great position right now. And she has the power to send whoever she wants to Exile Island. So regardless of whether or not she fits your criteria of what makes a good Survivor player, she is certainly playing a better game than most of the individuals that are left.
Absolutely.
But I do think that for some people that, it doesn't matter what someone like Cassandra does, because she does not fit their ideal of what a good Survivor player is. So anytime she does something that is for the betterment of her game that is at the expense of one of them, they are going to look at this as either she got lucky or how dare she, or she just made this huge mistake. Like, they are not going to ever legitimize her game or see her as like the force in the game that she is. And that is part of the reason why they lose out this round, is because they are underestimating people that they do not see as their competitive rival.
Yeah. And on paper, it's not like going after Cassandra is necessarily a wrong take, especially after this challenge where she demonstrated just how much social understanding she has of the tribe. Like, I would have understood if they were like, oh, wow, like she really is in tune with everything. She won this challenge. She's able to pull people in. We need to take her out now before she can influence other people. Like that, I would understand, but it just seems like they're so blinded by who she is and the way the way they dismissed her at the beginning of the season and what she's able to do now. They can't get past that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good take on like Cassandra as an archetype in Survivor, but then also Cassandra Franklin specifically as
Mm-hmm.
a player in Survivor Fiji. Because we've been singing her praises pretty much all season. Like, she's not the star of the season, but all of the moments we've got of her so far have been a testament to how strong of a player she is.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that like she is a force to be reckoned with, and maybe one of the best strengths to her game at this point is that her rivals in the game, the people on the opposing side of her, do not recognize what a good player she is. Like, that is her superpower here. And one of the other things that she does so well here is picking her players to go on the reward with her. So she picks, and I don't know if this was a conversation that they had previously or what their considerations here. I don't know if she talked with some of the other players ahead of time, but she picks Dreams, who we know is doing a little back and forth, but then also like they are a tight duo. So this is not surprising to anybody. She picks Boo, who is someone she wants to build an alliance with. And then she picks Yowman, who is also someone she wants to build an alliance with, but she also feels like Yowman deserves a break. So those are the three that go on the reward, and they, particularly Yowman and Cassandra, focus on really solidifying the syndicate here. And I think that these are the best choices that Cassandra could have picked for this reward.
Yeah.
She picked this perfectly. Perfectly.
Yeah. And I think that this is like, this was, it's very easy to screw up winning a reward by who you pick. And it's real, like, we have seen time and time again the downfall of people's games stemming from who they picked on certain rewards. And I think that especially when you have 3 people that you take with you, like, that increases the odds of how this can go wrong. But she made perfect picks here, and I think that is very hard to do. But I think in the circumstances that they have in the showdown that's about to commence, these are who you want to bring on the rewards with you. And then back at camp. So I think that's pretty much all that happened at the reward challenge, or at the reward itself. But once everyone's back, like, it was so good that they showed us this before the immunity challenge, because it's incredible.
This is probably one of my favorite sequences that I think I've seen, because we see Dreams and Alex are talking and discussing the vote and what to do, and I love the camera work this episode. Yes. I think they really do a great job, because we see a shot of like somebody walking up to Alex and Dreams, and then we cut over to Earl, and he's like, we need the pot. Like, what are y'all doing over here? Like, also why did they take the pot with them? Like, what did they? Like, why drag something so public over there? Oh yeah, we're just gonna take the pot over here and do something. Like, there was still water in it. Like, I was like, why do you have the pot? Like, we need it.
Also, like, so Earl is not a dad. Earl is a dad now. He was not a dad when this season was airing or when he was on the island. But when he said, we're waiting on the pot, I just got like war flashbacks from all the times I've been distracted. I was supposed to do something for my dad. And I was just like this is like the make sure you take the chicken out of the freezer.
Yeah, did you defrost the chicken? Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Like, I hear his voice. I'm like, Dad? Like, what the hell? So it was very much like, it really felt like he was getting like kind of scolded by like a family member for not doing what they're supposed to do, for like taking too long. And like, it's so funny. But then also, like, this is kind of the point of contention that's been recurring, is that like, I think Earl does want to work with Dreams, in part because they want to secure a Black winner, and that the Black Alliance seems to be something that they're all fairly passionate about. But he's fraternizing too much with the enemy, being the Four Horsemen here, and it makes Earl uneasy about whether or not they're going to have to let him go at some point. They're going to have to let Dreams go at some point. So
yeah,
this was like, I don't blame Earl for having concerns here about it, and like being worried about whether or not Dreams was actually loyal to this alliance. But I do think that this is the time that Dreams needs to solidify his trust with the other side here.
Oh, absolutely. Especially on a vote like it's the final 9. Like, this is going to be a very, very pivotal vote for the for how things can divide out further, you know? And it's this scene right here after Earl gives that confessional that is just so good. I really, really enjoy it, because we see the scene we alluded to earlier where we start off with Cassandra and Dreams. And Cassandra and Dreams are talking, and she's like, yeah, like the rest of the tribe, they're just like, they're not really feeling what you're doing. Like, we're a little nervous about what you're doing here. She was like, oh, well, that hurts my feelings. Like, Earl walks up in the middle, and this is so good. Just the facial expressions.
Yes,
and also
so
the fact that it, like, the camera angle was such that it really felt like, oh, we're trying to catch the conversation as it's happening. It was like a weird shot. It felt like it was almost like like I was in a theater for a second, because the way the camera angle was, they all were like facing the camera. It wasn't like they were in a circle or anything. They were like all facing the camera and talking to each other. So it just felt like, ooh, we're like walking up on this conversation and making sure to catch it in the moment. And just Earl's facial expressions in this alone, I just thoroughly, and it felt like one of those, you know, when you get in a room, and sorry to everybody that's not Black, but you know, when you get in a room with other Black people, it is just you, and you can kind of like not let your guard down, but like, especially in a game like Survivor, but it just felt like it was like a moment of like, okay, we're gonna have a real talk right now. Like, what are you doing, Dreams? We need to know. We need to know if you're down for the cause, because this stuff that you're doing, too much. Too much. To the point where Dreams is like, oh, Mookie is the idol.
Yeah.
So,
like,
oh, okay.
So a lot happens here. And I believe this is the first time we have seen the remaining members of the Black Alliance together by themselves. So this is really like what you were talking about, Aaron. It's like, we can drop the act now. Like, we're supposed to be aligned. We're supposed to be an alliance. We are trying to secure a Black winner. Sir, what are you doing here? Like, what is up? And I think like the thing with Earl and Cassandra, they do not baby Dreams, and they do not treat Dreams like he is any less intelligent than any other player in the game, which I think is like, they're not talking down to him, but it's like, we need to be straight with each other. Like, what is up? Are you with us or are you not? Like, let's drop the act now. You know, like this is a different level of honesty with this group of three that we haven't seen yet in how they interact with other players too. So I think that like this is a pivotal moment for this alliance, and in part to prove Dream's seriousness about this alliance, he does reveal to both of them. And I think this does speak to how I think Dreams does want to work with them. And we even hear on the reward that, like, yes, Mookie wants to work with the guys still, but Dreams' heart is telling him to work with Earl, Cassandra, and Yao-Man. So I think that he does want Earl to trust him. And I think that if that wasn't important to him, he would have just told Cassandra about this idol and not Cassandra and Earl. But he reveals that Mookie has an idol and that he found it at the Ravu camp. And the thing that I really love here that is not talked about enough, and it is the title of this episode, is Earl asking Dreams very nonchalantly, it almost feels like a throwaway comment, of what the idol looks like. And it goes into Dreams responding that it's a mini turtle, and Earl replies back like, oh, it's a turtle? Like, what are you even talking? Like, he acts very confused in it. This Survivor gameplay that we are looking for here, because
I love
Earl
it.
is so Earl at this point, he has to take Dreams for his word that Mookie has the idol, but Earl knows what the idol looks like because Yao-Man found the idol with Earl's clues. And so he is well aware of this. So this is a way of like testing Dreams' information without Dreams knowing that he is testing his information here. So Earl is well aware of the fact that the idol looks like a turtle here. So this is how he knows that, yes, Mookie has an idol and Dreams has seen it. So he is aware of this. And I think this is just like next level brilliance for this
so good
stage of Survivor here. Like, it's so good here.
It's a very clever way. It's a very clever use of subtle gameplay. It's something we don't get to see moments like this very often. It's quite the kind of things you want to see more of. It's a very clever way of asking something in a, as we're saying, like a very intentional, like Earl knows exactly what he's doing there. It's very underhanded. I can think of a couple of other examples in other shows, but this is the type of strategy that I love. It's the clever, subtle things that hit for me so much harder than the big plays.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is very strong gameplay. And I think this shows like why players like Earl are so impactful in the game, because he's playing in moments that you don't even recognize that he's playing. Like, this is something that took me more than one watch to pick up on, like exactly what he is doing here. And if you are not a Survivor Fiji stan like us, then this might be something that goes right over your head, but this is how he confirms this type of information. And I think that this is a example of like how like this is not just any trio of Black players on a season of Survivor. Like, these are all three very strong players. Like, this is the gold standard of alliance members that you want to have on Survivor. And you certainly, I want Dreams, Cassandra, and Earl all on my side, because together these three really are a force, even though they're not perfect along the way. Like, this is an alliance that, to make it work, you have to balance your personal interests with what is good for the group. And I think this is something that Dreams and the other players are going to have to learn as they move forward. So like, Dreams can't be doing the most every moment. Like, they can forgive him voting out Michelle, but he can't be doing that and acting like he's with the Four Horsemen at the same time, to the point where they're questioning his loyalties here. So this is why they need to have these discussions. And I like, this is such a good moment. And this is probably one of the moments that isn't as talked about in like the grand scheme of like the story of It's a Turtle, but like it's significant for so many reasons, not just because of the idol reveal.
And he's able to do so much with this too. Like even if he doesn't exactly trust what Dreams is saying all the way, he's simultaneously able to confirm but also act like he's finding out this information for the first time. And players who are able to do that, chef's kiss. Like
Yes.
so good.
And I do have to say, I love this, but also when we were watching the previous episodes and the Four Horsemen were all worried about how Dreams was going to tell Cassandra about the idol, which is really Mookie's idol. And then I'm like, no, actually, he doesn't tell Cassandra. He tells Cassandra and Earl. So there, like it just felt like, like the monkey's paw girls here. It was like, gotcha,
So good.
got him.
But
It was so good. Is there anything else we want to cover before we get to the immunity challenge?
No.
Yeah, not really.
I feel like the immunity challenge is fairly inconsequential to the storyline of the season. This is like a pretty well-known endurance immunity challenge now. I think this is the first time they
It is, yeah.
play it. Yeah, so this is the first time. It's the one where you are in between two walls that have footholds, and the lower you go down, the longer you last. You step down to footholds that are smaller. Last person to drop from this platform or from their footholds wins immunity.
And they named it a chimney sweep.
That's the name of the challenge?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I like that. I actually like that name for this. I wouldn't know what some of the names for challenges. I'm like, really? Like that's what we're going with here? But I do like that for this. It does it has that feel to it.
Yeah.
It's clever. But then, okay, so basically, like what we said before, this is pretty much like the reverse order of people that got out in the reward challenge. So we get like Cassandra's out, Edgardo's out, and then once they move down one foothold, that's when we really start losing people. So like Earl, Mookie, Alex, Dreams, all out. Final three is Stacy, Boo, and Yao Man. And a lot of people were thinking that Stacy was going to win here. And then Stacy drops, then Boo drops, and then Yao Man wins immunity. I feel like this isn't too surprising for me. Like Yao Man he's still a likable player here, and he's still like a memorable one, but this is kind of his big moment of the episode is that he wins immunity. But it doesn't really change any of the plans moving forward because they weren't planning to vote out Yao Man anyway. And they don't suspect him of having the idol, so it doesn't really change anything here for them. So this is probably the best outcome for the syndicate without like messing up plans too much. And like obviously the big thing is they don't want any of the Four Horsemen to win immunity because that would have really switched things up here. But I think like that's pretty much it. This was a fairly of this episode, again, it's amazing. We love like the order that they did the challenges and what challenges were picked here. But I feel like of everything that happened this episode, the immunity challenge is kind of like this is where I will go like get my snacks like during this part. Like it's not the most entertaining segment of the episode.
I think so. The one element of this challenge I do like is when we have the moment when people are saying who they think's going to win the challenge, and people are saying Stacey. I think that at least shows where if these people really despised Stacey and they were really hating on her, even if they thought she was going to win, they would have just said someone else just to really irritate her. So we need to get some idea of like she's not in a horrific position. There's something salvageable with her position in the tribe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Stacey is like my absolute favorite in the segments when they're back at camp. And so like this is this is really like the Stacey Kimball story here. Like, it's not, there's obviously a lot of other things going on, and like those are very important, but Stacey is like a beacon of light here, because for a very long time the assumption was that Stacey was going to move over to the Four Horsemen when she got a chance to. And this has been even an issue that has caused friction between, or caused a fracture between the Four Horsemen members, because Alex and Edgardo are all for it, bringing Stacey in, and Mookie and Dreams are like, hell no, why would we allow that to happen? So now it's happening, and with Yao Man winning immunity, once they get back to camp, it is officially time for the scramble, and scramble they do. Do we want to talk about the syndicate's initial plan before we go over to the Four Horsemen?
At what point in the syndicate's plan?
So the initial plan, let's start here. The initial plan is they're going to vote out Alex.
Yeah.
This seems like this seems like someone that they have been ready to let go. He sticks out as a bit of a threat. I think that in terms of like that alliance, they are really looking at Alex as like the head of the operation here. And that is the initial plan. And they know now that Mookie has the idol. So they're even less worried about the possibility that Alex could play an idol here. And this is information that is relegated to the people they're not 100% certain of now. So we get that moment where Yao Man talks to Stacey about voting for Alex, and she's like, okay, sounds good to me. Like, she's good to go now. As long as she's not outside of the majority, like, she's good. And then Dreams is made aware of it, and Boo was already in on this plan, I believe. So like the six that are voting together are aware of this at the moment. So their plan is that we are going to vote out Alex here. That is the plan. Now Dreams, who is our middleman here, again, he is flipping back and forth between both sides. He relegates this information back to them, and that like, yeah, the vote's probably going to go to Alex here. Now, Alex is already, kind of dealing with the consequences of his actions here, because one of the numbers that they initially thought that they had was Stacey. And first of all, he starts their conversation with, I saved you last round, so here's what we're going to do. And Stacey is very wishy-washy about her answer. She's just like, yeah, I don't know yet. I'm going to need time to think. And as you said earlier, Joshua, as soon as Edgardo hears this information relayed back to him about how Stacey isn't certain, he's like, she's not with us. She's not a number with us. Like, that's all we need to know.
This way of approaching people, it shows a lack of social game. In no world in Survivor, to any individual, I feel like just in life in general, when does it ever make sense to go to someone and say, you're going to do this for me? Like, when is that ever a good idea? When you're trying to convince someone, I'm trying to think of a life circumstance where this makes sense. I cannot think, even if you've not seen Survivor before, this doesn't make sense in any universe, ever.
Yeah. Especially because, and Stacey explains this so well, is that she is still a player in this game. She is trying to work her way into some type of comfortable position here, and she knows where the majority is voting. She has been given that information through Yao Man. I think she is working to establish some trust with some core members of the syndicate, which I think is this is the correct move on her part. This is what Mookie should have done here, is try to establish trust with some of his former tribe members. But then even though, yes, Alex and Edgardo planned to voted to keep her last round, that does not that does not influence her decision now. And the confessional that she gives word for word is, I of course want to go with the majority. So it's who I trust more at this point in the game. I don't owe anything to Alex. If saving myself means severing a tie, then I'll sever that tie. Stacey Kimball for second chances too. Like, this is exactly what you should be doing. And this is not something that everyone understands in old school Survivor. Like, we are still struggling with this aspect at this phase in the game where people are like still wavering with this idea of like honor and integrity, or if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, and like still kind of like tiptoeing the line of what makes for acceptable backstabbing in the game of Survivor. And Stacey doesn't care. She's like, if going to the majority is what is going to get me further in this game, then that is what I'm going to do. And she recognizes a sinking ship when she sees it and knows that going with the 4 horsemen at this point is a lost cause. So good on Stacey here. And then talk about, all right, do you want to talk about the 4 horsemen's plan here?
Yeah, so you know, at the beginning, a lot of this is basically told from Mookie's perspective. So pretty much after the immunity challenge, Mookie in the confessional is basically saying how, you know, okay, I think like knowing that Earl potentially has this idol, you know, you want to get the guy out with the immunity idol and get him by surprise. So hopefully we can take him out with the immunity idol and he won't even use it. But then after talking to Stacey, you know, he was hoping that Stacey would vote with them today to make it 5-3, which what vote do you think is happening 5-3 in a group of 9 people? I would love to know what vote that is. I would love to be in that universe. I will take what Mookie is having. Thank you. It's like, he's like, oh, well, it seems like she's not voting with us anymore. So I don't want to use the immunity idol this early in the game. It's too early to use the idol. So I just have to think strategically about what's going to get me the furthest in the game. So I guess I can save Alex by giving him the immunity idol. But using the idol early in this game is kind of a disadvantage. And so things have gotten very complicated. And we see a scene which, please explain to me why, of anywhere, they literally go in a clearing in the camp. And maybe it was close to tribal council, but like even then, of all the places like downhill from everybody where they can clearly be seen, Alex is directing Mookie to just drop the idol on the ground so he could pick it up and put it in his bag. And he's like, oh, it's going to work, Mook. It's going to work. And we see shots of Dream staring at them doing it. It's so bad. It's so bad. Why are you, if you're going to exchange an idol, like just go off in the woods. Like, I don't know. Or don't even exchange it. Like, what are you doing?
That's exactly my point, is if you want to not let people know where the idol is going to be played, just have Mookie play the idol for Alex. Like, there was no need for this exchange between people. There's absolutely no reason to be exchanging it. And even when we are looking at like some of the answers that we get in the final tribal council does hint at Edgardo going here, or even Mookie. Like, it does not, to me, the answers that we are hearing, and obviously tribal council lasts a lot longer than what we see, but there are a lot of hints being sprinkled throughout that Alex is not the vote here. So I think the thing that they should have done is tell Mookie to play the idol for Alex and not pull off this like charade that they have going on where they need to exchange the idol so that there's no reason for Alex to have the idol here. If you want the maximum effect, just tell Mookie, like, don't tell anybody, but like, if the votes are coming my way, you should play the idol on me. and then we'll be able to have like a better chance moving forward.
It's not just me, right? This drop on the floor thing didn't make sense. It would have been more discreet just to quickly in 1 second do the pass. Like how did this make any sense to have this whole choreographed routine, which just made them look silly? Like the whole thing, like it's very on brand for them. I think it just helps show how ridiculous these people are, because every single step of the idol passing process was done horrifically. There's not a single impressive thing here. Everything is awful. Mookie would have just should have said no entirely. Just like, I'm going to play the idol myself anyway. Like, not everything we see here is bad. We do not see a single impressive thing from either of them for that whole segment, or this whole episode. To be honest,
it's really bad here. So it's bad, and then it's only made worse by Edgardo's decision that instead the original plan here was to vote for Earl, right? That was the person that they wanted to get rid of. And then because of the exile decision, but then like because they are worried about Earl potentially having the idol from the Moto camp, they decide to switch the vote to Cassandra instead, in part because they just like don't like her because they're awful. I don't know, but also just work with me here. If you want this information to stay amongst you and you want this plan to work, why are you telling Dreams that they are voting for his closest ally? Like, this is the person that had his back since day one. Like, if you want a vote to work here, say you're voting out Stacy because she's just not a number for you anymore, or say you're voting for literally anyone else besides Cassandra. Like, at the very least here, like, what incentive does Dreams have as a player to vote out Cassandra? That may be the one person in this equation that he is not willing to vote out here.
Yeah. And you know what the crazy thing here is too, is that it's interesting how both sides come to a similar conclusion, but only one side has the forethought to not tell Dreams.
Yeah.
And also that it's crazy to think, or at least I'm just surprised that the Four Horsemen didn't come to the conclusion, hey, if we decide to vote for somebody who we weren't originally going to vote for, what if they decide to do the same?
Yes, exactly.
It's so bad. Every time you see them speak, it gets progressively worse and worse and worse. Like, everything is just worse than the thing they said prior to it. It doesn't get better for them for the rest of the episode.
No.
It really doesn't. But then, because of this crazy idol exchange, we haven't even gotten to the best part yet, which is that because Alex now has the idol, Dreams relays this information to the syndicate. He tells them that Alex has the idol now. This is very soon to when they are going to vote. And then we get the iconic Stacey Kimball giving us the option that wins the day here, which is that they are not sure how to take Dreams information here. This is the correct information, but they are not sure whether they should take it at face value or if Alex and Mookie are just planning to switch the idol back and forth here. Stacey comes through here with the syndicate, offering them the solution that in this group of three, if we are worried about the idol being exchanged to Alex or Mookie, why don't we just vote out Edgardo?
Brilliant. A game changer.
A literal game changer here, because it is so rare in Survivor. And this is something that can only be done in instances like this where there is one or two idols in play and you are not sure about like what the possibilities are. You're fairly certain, like you need to balance out like the risk and reward assessments in this type of play. But the take a third option strategy is so good. It is rarely executed as well as this one is.
Yeah.
But this is exactly the move here. And it is, and there are some very big players in this season so far. I would say people like Alex, Earl, Yao Man, I would even say like Cassandra, who she's not getting a huge edit, but she is definitely like, we have talked already about like how good her game was this episode. But like those are kind of the stars that we have gotten of this episode so far, and Dreams. But his role is so different from everyone else's here. And it is Stacy that comes out of the woodwork with the plan that is the one that succeeds here.
It's so impressive. It's so impressive. And as I was saying before, this is foundational strategy of Survivor. If you look at like the development of this show, her saying that one thing, that is the next level of Survivor strategy. This is because when I think about levels of Survivor strategy, you look at like the idea of forming alliances, the idea of maybe like this is one of the biggest things to ever happen to Survivor. Since that, it's like at this time in Survivor, this is like top 5 strategic plays at least.
This
and
is
Brits come from someone that. So I think this is the biggest strategic thing we see on the show from someone that is this unrepresented. Like most other people, when they come up with these big things, they always get their flowers for it. People do not credit Stacey enough for this. This is everything. It seems so simple now, but back then, this was revolutionary.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, I think the two that really stick out here are like the only thing I can think of that's like on par with this is Cowboy in the previous season. That when they were suggesting, was it the splitting the votes or just like playing like the decoy vote on there? The splitting the votes, yeah. So I think like on par of like I think Cowboy does get his flowers more than Stacey does in this instance, but the idea that like they are learning with us how to navigate the idol, and this is the first season where the idol is played in this format, because like if it had been a previous season like Guatemala, they would have had to play the idol before the votes were even cast, so then it's just easy for the syndicate to vote whoever doesn't play the idol. In the season before that, they would have the idol on them, and that would be like too powerful because they would get to play it after the votes were read.
Right.
For this episode in particular, it's really important because like they are learning as they go, and Stacey is the one that offers like the solution that makes the most sense, and this is not something that is a fully realized plan yet. Now it's like second nature for Survivor players to say, okay, who is least likely of the group we want to get out to have the idol? So let's go with that and hope that they aren't catching on to what we're doing. But Stacey is that girl here. Like, I'm so happy for her. And this is where they come to the decision. The majority of the syndicate agrees that they need to get out Edgardo here because he is the person that is least likely to have the idol in that group of 3. But they decide that once they have the solution planned out, that they aren't going to tell Dreams about it. So they will know if Dreams is loyal to their side by whether or not he votes for Mookie here, because they have not told him that the plan has shifted from Mookie to Edgardo. Is there anything else about this episode before we get into the tribal council?
No, I think that covers pretty much everything. I think the plans, they go in with a very well-versed plan. The leaving Dreams out, which I was mentioning, is definitely the perfect way to play this situation. I mean, for 2 reasons. A, because he can't be trusted, but also in the magical world where the other alliance also guesses correctly. If they can then figure out who to play the idol on in their alliance, they've then got that backup vote as well to also get one of them out still. So on multiple levels, the leaving Dreams out, this is the right move.
Yeah. I think that this was the right call. It is a little risky in that Dreams could like feel some type of way about them leaving him out, like similar to how he's felt left out in other situations. But at this point, it's like, one, where is he really going to go from here by being left out of the vote? Because the difference after losing Edgardo is so great between the two sides. But then also, I think that with the people that he's been closest to, or the people that he has these types of discussions with, like Earl and Cassandra, I think I have faith in Cassandra that she is going to be able to like explain it to him in a way that he will take well. If no one else, like Cassandra can do it. All right. So I usually don't take any notes about the tribal council, but it was a necessary situation here.
Yeah.
Like this is a great time. So everyone is pretty much on the same page about the fact that this was an insane day. The scrambling back and forth was at an all-time high. Everything was very chaotic. The vote here isn't about who is voting where, because we as the viewers have an idea about like where the votes are going to go. The big question is where the idol is going to be played and how that is going to impact the outcome. Because if there is some last minute change and they start thinking, I wonder if Edgardo is actually getting votes here, then that's a whole new ball game for them. Or if Mookie hadn't exchanged the idol and just decided not to play it and let them have their sacrificial lamb here, then Mookie would have still had an idol here. Was there any important part of the tribal council before the votes are cast that we want to discuss?
I mean, I like Dreams' comment when asked by, like, what do you think about this vote? Like, that this vote is really determining everything. It's a very important vote. And, despite the chaos of what was happening, they still have to vote for somebody. So, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times when in Survivor, we either get pivotal votes once the merge hits, or we get messy votes. I feel like it is very rare. Like it is like this perfect intersection of both. Like every once in a while we get because this is really the merge vote. This is the first time they're all voting together as a group. This is a very rare occurrence. It's like a full moon. I guess full moons aren't rare. It's like a comet, I guess I would say. It's like that Halley's Comet finally coming back into orbit, where we have gotten this perfect storm of a pivotal that just happens to be the most chaotic vote of the season. So it's just beautiful. It's cinema is what it is. It's a cinematic masterpiece here. But everyone is aware of just like how important this vote is to everybody involved, because this is really going to determine the trajectory of the game moving forward. And then we get to the votes being cast. Now, I do want to say, though, beforehand, I'm very sad they did not air this voting confessional, but Yowman in his vote for Edgardo, like Yowman has so many shady moments that are underreported in this season, and I just wish they showed it more because we love a petty king. But Yowman says in his vote for Edgardo, it wasn't really your turn yet, but your boss has the immunity idol, so you have to go. Sorry. And I know he probably said it in a slightly nicer way than I'm explaining it, but I don't care because this is so funny. And it's like, this is the vote that should have. I don't think did they show the Edgardo votes? I think they showed Cassandra.
They showed Edgardo voting for Cassandra.
Okay, they showed Edgardo voting for Cassandra, and I know they showed Dreams voting for Mookie here.
Yeah.
They really needed subtitles when they were casting the votes because they talked so quietly here that I didn't actually know fully what the voting confessionals were until I looked them up online, because it was just like very hard to actually hear what they were saying.
Right.
But yeah. So, okay. We get to when the votes are being cast. And the votes are done. Jeff goes to go tally the votes, and then he asks the all-important question: if anyone has a hidden immunity idol, would you like to play it? Like, now is the time to do so. Alex stands up, and remember, like there are some peanut gallery members here with Rocky, Michelle, and Lacey here. So I think Rocky's. Well, I didn't want Rocky to be the mayor of Ponderosa. He has some pretty good reactions this episode as well. So, Yeah, as far as jury reactions go. So Alex plays the idol for himself. The four horsemen look like they really pulled one over, but if you look at the camera, the syndicate members look like Christmas came early. Like they look so, I'm like, oh my God, he did it. And he played it for himself. Like, oh my God, this is exactly what we expected to happen. And Dreams is smiling too because he thinks this means that Mookie is going here. But similar reasons, just like they just wasted their idol. But like that's when I knew that the plan worked. Rewatching this before you even see the votes read, because they're just like, no, this group is too happy to see Alex playing an idol. And that is when I, as a Survivor player, would be like, I just misplayed my idol because
Yeah.
the opposition looks way too happy at this revelation here. And then, so this is where it all starts coming together. So the 3 votes for Cassandra all come in at once, and they know that this is their votes. So like that, this is what they expected. And then there is 1 vote for Mookie, which Mookie just looks kind of sad that he got a vote, but this is something that like he might have been expecting as well. Then a vote for Edgardo comes in. And this is when we get the reaction gif heard around the world where Edgardo goes from a cocky smile to a frown. Alex is frowning, realizing what is going on here about the fact that, like, yes, this is not what is supposed to have happened. And Dreams is also shocked, but because of Edgardo being the one to catch the votes here. But then we get all of the remaining Edgardo votes are going in. And at the end of the day, it is Edgardo voted out in a 5-3-1 vote.
So good.
Yes. And
Really great.
It's so good. This is the fall of the 4 horsemen. Their first member has been voted out. Edgardo isn't necessarily like I wouldn't call him the worst player of the 4 horsemen personally, but I think that this was the right move for them to go. They didn't go, and they referenced this earlier when they are discussing their potential strategies, that like they wanted to go for the head of the beast, which would have been Alex, or the person with the power, which would have been Mookie, since he was the one that had the immunity idol. But because of the likelihood of the idol being played for one of them, they want to go with the safest option, which is Edgardo, who is the person that is least likely to have it. And this is the right call. And I think Edgardo has proven to be a fairly competent player that, like, in the long run, just like, I think this is the right call anyway, because I just think at the point we are in the game, Edgardo is more likely to bounce back from a setback like this. And I think that like the personalities that we have seen thus far from Alex and Mookie are just like, they are too volatile when things are not going their way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Edgardo I think is a big part of why the alliance works. I think without Edgardo, like what relationship do Alex and Mookie have, especially after their argument this episode about holding the idol and all that, and then it still didn't work? Yeah. And then Mookie and Dreams obviously had fallout from Dreams voting out Michelle, and then Dreams and Alex, like it's not the same, you know?
Yeah.
So I think without Edgardo there, I don't know if that alliance really holds in the same way that it did before.
Yeah, actually, if I take Dreams out of the equation for the 4 horsemen, and I forgot a lot of the little things that happened along the way up until Edgardo's vote out, but taking Dreams out of this equation of the 3 remaining 4 horsemen, I actually do think that Edgardo is the most well-rounded of those 3 players, because even though he does get annoyed when things aren't going his way, his ability to bounce back is much more impressive than Alex and Mookie's. And I think that this is probably the person you wanted to get out anyway, because as we see, the other two are causing a lot of drama this next episode in the previously on or the next time on segments. And I don't necessarily know if it's going to be received well as they are hoping. Yeah. So I think that even though this was a last minute decision, this is actually the right call in the long run, because Edgardo is arguably the most well-rounded of those three.
Yeah, which again, not a high bar, but of that
No,
group, yes.
the bar is in hell, but Edgardo has been able to like just step over it at this point. And it's kind of surprising that I get why, but it's kind of surprising that he got such little screen time compared to Alex, because I do think that Edgardo is the more well-rounded player of the two. Like, I think that if we wanted to have a rooting interest in the Four Horsemen at all, maybe they should have shown us a little more of Edgardo and a little less Alex. But as it stands, I wasn't rooting for them anyway, so this is the perfect outcome. No notes.
Yeah. This whole tribal council is so interesting because it's rare where the fall of someone you barely know and care about is so exciting. Because it's not really the fact, like, Edgardo specifically as an individual going, you don't really care that much about. It's just that alliance failing. And, like, you're more excited to see the failure of the surviving members of that alliance than Edgardo. We don't care about the fact he's lost. But it's interesting that the blindside victim is super unimportant to us as viewers, yet it's so exciting.
Yeah. And I think with, like, enough time has been spent. Like we've been talking for over 2 hours at this point about this episode, and in part like the dynamics of the Four Horsemen in general. But we have gotten enough information in past episodes to get an idea of what the dynamics of the Four Horsemen are and the type of players they are. I don't know if we can necessarily like say that about every alliance that we get. Like in a future season, Edgardo would get a purple edit. Like we would barely know anything about, but enough time has passed that we understand the dynamics enough of the Four Horsemen that we can recognize like everyone's assumed positions in this alliance, and like we kind of understand their personalities a little bit, and we can at least speculate with an educated perspective on like what each player is like. So just from what we know of the personalities and the players and their journey so far, someone like Alex and Mookie have definitely gotten more screen time and have like these character arcs that we are witnessing. But Edgardo, yes, he does seem like an inconsequential fallout this episode, but we know enough to know that, yeah, like Edgardo is probably the glue of this group. And now that he is gone, not just because one of the Four Horsemen has left and they have lost a number, this is definitely the player that probably could have turned things around for himself, or the most likely to do it if he had stayed over one of the two. And honestly, I do kind of think that, like, if it had been Alex going here, like, let's say the vote had stayed on him and he didn't play an idol, that might have been the best thing for Edgardo's game moving forward. Like, I think that, not that Edgardo was a perfect player, but I kind of think that him being attached to Alex so much was not helpful to him at all.
I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, so do we have any other thoughts on this decision before I read Edgardo's final words?
You know, I think it's very well presented. In my mind, whenever I was watching this tribal council, what I was thinking of, so if this was on a show like The Genius, this would be the moment where like Extreme Way starts playing, when we'd get a flashback to what happened with Stacey saying, why don't we vote for Edgardo? Like, that's the type of situation we would have seen there. But I do like to hear, because Survivor's not a show that would go back and explain it. I'm glad that they explain knowing, so you can watch this and be like, okay, Stacey's come up with this amazing plan. We get to see members of the tribe knowing. It is very well done. And like you were saying before, this episode is so well put together to get to this outcome. And then the final words kind of just make the boot even sweeter.
It really does.
Yeah, if I felt bad for Edgardo, even just a smidge, the final words, just I'm like, I'm glad he's gone. Like, bye. Have fun in jury. But also now you have put into my head, if there are any very good, talented editors out there, I would love to see this episode edited like a Genius episode. It would be so good. Like, I would watch that in a heartbeat. Oh,
so good.
So if anyone's out there and it's like, I can do that, please do it. And then send the audio footage or send the footage to me because I must have this in my life now. All right. Edgardo's final words are, I'm really disappointed that Dreams messed me up in that vote. My plan was an all or nothing and it didn't work out, but I tried my best. And to the guys that voted me out, best of luck. There's a couple of people who don't deserve the $1 million, but there's a couple that do. Cassandra, you should hopefully get voted off next because I don't like you very much. What has Cassandra done to this man?
They really do not like her.
They're weird. These are weirdos. I'm sorry. Like, Cassandra is the nicest person I've ever known. And I don't even know her, but I know she's the nicest person I've ever known. So
it's not even like I've seen them argue and I could be like, oh, okay, well, I guess, they just don't get, like, there's nothing that's giving any hint to the amount of vitriol does not match what we're actually seeing. And it's very weird.
I just know that back on like Ravi Beach, that was just the woman they just decided to keep bashing for absolutely no reason. She probably did nothing to it at any point. They just decided that Cassandra's the one they're going to keep complaining about. So she was just the target. And before some of these people had even spent proper amounts of time with her, they were going to just go all in on her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even though Alex got the award for being the most entitled in touchy subjects, this reeks of entitlement here because I hate one of my biggest pet peeves is when players discuss who does or doesn't deserve the win in this game as if like anybody, like the concept of Survivor is that we get like somewhere between like 16 and 20 random people on an island and try to just like form bonds and lie and backstab each other for $1 million. Like, and as we heard in season 43, like the players make the rules, but there isn't anything about the game that provides criteria. But like, first of all, the idea that someone deserves $1 million is asinine because this is like, you should be treating this as like a special opportunity. This is not about who deserves or doesn't deserve the money. But then also like the idea that because you are out that you get to start dictating, okay, like not only am I not going to vote for Cassandra if she makes it to the end, because we can assume that at this point that this isn't going to happen, but the fact that because she outlasted you, like that is somehow like and she didn't work with you, that this is something to be said about like her not deserving the money or that they don't like her, or like we have not seen her ever be in a position of power around Edgardo up until this episode, really, because like we haven't seen them interact at all. But what we did see on the Moto Beach was that the original Moto Beach was Dreams and Cassandra being treated like shit the whole time. So I just hate this discussion from fans and players about like who does and doesn't deserve $1 million, except like Russell Hantz because he doesn't. But that's it. That's it. And maybe like 2 or 3 other people, but I will save that for another time. Yes. Yes. Oop.
Only one or 2 more?
Like there's a handful, but I'm being nice. Yes.
I don't think I could count them on all the hands that we've got on this podcast today, to be honest. But sure, we'll go.
I know. We'll leave it to an air of mystery. I'm sure there is like a very long list somewhere. But oh, I'm very excited. Are you guys ready to actually? Oh wait, I do want to see if I can do something real quick. So let me see if I can get here. I did as I was making this. As I was making this, the notes for this episode, I did, which is now posted on Twitter, our moral aligned for this episode. And this is
Yes, you did
specifically
such a
for
good
the episode.
job.
So I wanted you all to share.
So good.
Thank you. So what we have here, I'm sorry, I still don't know how this works, but no, wait, hold on. Okay, here we go. So what we have, yes, I put a lot of thought into this. This took a lot longer than what you would see here. So for this episode, so for people that don't know, moral alignment is like how your morality is viewed in, like, I think it's Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but this is like
I have.
helping you build a character and their motivations here. So is that right, Aaron? Does that like make sense what I said then?
Yeah,
You
so
said you played before?
so their moral alignment is how they operate in the world. So
Mhm.
if somebody is lawful, they operate according to the rules of whatever world they're in. If somebody's neutral, they'll mostly stick to the laws, but if something's in their best interest, yeah, they'll break it. And then chaotic, they have no regard for any of the rules and just kind of do things in their own way and just are just.
Yeah.
And then good, neutral, and evil would be like so like for example, somebody who is chaotic good ultimately is on is maybe more of a heroic person, but just goes about it in a completely different way,
Mhm.
their own chaotic way than maybe somebody who was lawful good would go. A lawful good
Yeah.
person would try to save somebody according to the rules.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. So that sounds about right here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I am not the expert on like the alignments. I think you explained it really well, but I think that explanation makes me a little more confident in the placements that I made. So we put lawful good as, I'll go like start at the top and then just go through like each like goods, neutrals, and evils. So lawful good I put as Yao Man. He wasn't a big star this episode, but he won immunity. He was a good ally. He had that nice moment with Stacy where he was talking about how they were going to vote and that this was a majority vote. I think neutral good is Earl. I think he has some tendencies to be a little more outspoken and chaotic when he needs to be, but most of the time he's like relatively neutral, and I think he is one of the big change makers of this season. So I think neutral good is probably the best position for him. Now chaotic good, Cassandra, she won that reward challenge. She won, like, she got to send Mookie to Exile Island, which just sent him on this spiral of revenge against Cassandra. And then also, like, she did a lot of really good work this episode, particularly in making sure that her, Earl, and Dreams were on the same page. So I think like she was just like I wouldn't call her a chaotic good overall in like her story arc. I would say that
Right.
she is like, in this episode, she's more so chaotic good than, I would say like she's more so neutral good in, or lawful good in like the overall story that we have seen from her so far. So lawful neutral, I put Stacy because I think she really, above everyone else, she really recognizes like the mechanics of the game and the fact that she does not actually owe anyone anything, and like there is nothing in the rules of Survivor that says she owes anyone anything. So I think of the players we have seen so far, she is most cutthroat in the idea that like, yes, I had an alliance with you, yes, you voted to keep me at one point, but I don't actually owe you anything because there's no rule in Survivor that says I owe you anything.
Yeah.
I think Boo is as close to true neutral here as we are going to get, so I put him there. Dreams was always going to be in the chaotic position for me. That is just who he is. And I think in this episode, that is like, he is prime chaotic neutral because even though we know he does end up siding with the syndicate here, he goes back and forth like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Like he is punching in and punching out hours with these alliances. And I think he did an excellent job. And then the four horsemen members that are not Dreams are obviously in the evil sections, with Mookie being lawful evil. he wanted to keep his idol. I think that like he is treating Exile Island at face value and not actually thinking about the game. I think Edgardo, with between him probably being the most sane of his alliance members and making some bad decisions also, I think he is definitely neutral evil. And then Alex, with his asinine theories about how they should treat the idol, is definitely chaotic evil here. Is this seem like, was this a good placement? Is there anything you guys would switch here?
I think I personally agree entirely with this. I think
Yeah, I
this
do.
is a pretty
Yeah, I agree.
valid way of splitting up this cast.
Yeah.
I knew this was the right group to bring onto this podcast. So I'm very happy about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for the awards at the end of the episode?
Let's do it.
This is the
Yeah.
longest episode that we have had thus far, and for good reason, too. So we have a lot to think about as we go into these awards. So, best confessional.
Ooh, let me take a look at them.
Yeah, this is the hard one.
This is, yeah, there's a lot of good. So I feel like last episode, there weren't a ton of confessionals that stuck out to me, but here, so many of them do.
You know what? I have one.
Okay.
It's the last confessional of the episode. It's from Earl, where he says, what's going on now is total chaos. A lot of people are paranoid. The panic button has been pushed. Mookie has the idol, but he actually gave it to Alex. This is from our source, which is Dreams, but it could be a test. It doesn't matter because we're smarter than that, so we won't vote Alex or Mookie. We're going to vote Edgardo.
Oh, I do like that one.
I feel like
That
it's
is
a
really
great
good
summary of the episode as well. And it just encapsulates, a lot of reasons why I love this episode. So yeah, sure, that one.
I think that is a pretty solid pick. We're looking through confessionals. That is like definitely one of the top tier confessionals of the episode.
Yeah, I do really like that one. Josh, do you want to include that as yours as well, or?
It's genuinely so difficult here. Like,
Yeah,
It is.
And some Survivor episodes I struggle because I just watched the confessionals and like none of this was really giving that much. Whereas here there are lots of things that are giving and there's lots of things that are great for different reasons because there are ones that are so interesting and pivotal and there are other ones that I just laughed at as I was listening to them. I think if I think of my favorite confessional, there's something about it which not just because I laughed about it, I really enjoyed it. I would say it's the one from Cassandra where she's talking about Dreams playing both sides, which I know is like it's a bit of a strange pick for it, but I think seeing Cassandra really highlight the situation and mention about she's unsure about the future in the game for her and Dreams, I think putting in the context of them what goes on in the episode, there's something about I really enjoy in that sense. It's a weird selection considering all of it's almost like I'm so overwhelmed by how amazing some of the confessionals are that I'm almost defaulting to this one that is so interesting in the context of the episode because I think there's something about it that I enjoy that I don't find with everything else. Not that nothing else achieves that, obviously. There's just something specific and niche about it.
I do like that. And I do, this is a podcast where we are talking about the Black Alliance. And this is one of the things that I love about the All Black Alliance in Fiji is that it wasn't just like, all right, we're going to the end and that's it. And there's no questions. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It is like, these are self-interested players and they are trying to do above all else, even above the Black Alliance, they are trying to play the game that is best for them. And even though Earl and Cassandra do want to continue working with Dreams in part because of this mission that they have, I neither of them are willing to sacrifice their personal game, and this might not be the only time we see this struggle moving forward. Like, there's still 3 of them left in the game. There's a lot of game left to be played still, so we don't know if they'll actually make it to the end together at this point. I like that pick a lot. I think that was a good one. I'm going to go with one that has stuck with me throughout the years because it just made me, it's not really about the episode, like this episode, but it's one that stuck with me for a while, about really thinking about the player that says it, and then also just like the way how they think about the game. And it's Dream's first confessional of the episode, where he says, when we got to tribal council, Michelle starts talking, and she said in the tribal council, I don't know, Dre, I never hung around him. It kind of let me know, hold on, wait a minute, I don't know her neither. I don't know what alliance she's in. So it kind of scared me a bit and caused me to vote her name. If she never said that, she'd still be here right now. Like, on the surface, Dreams can have like whatever excuses he wants about why he voted for Michelle over Stacy, but realistically, like, he did make the decision that was best for him. And even though Dreams is in this all black alliance, like Earl and Cassandra, he is also a self-interested player, and he is thinking about the things that is going to better his chances in the game, not necessarily what is going to be best for Earl and Cassandra either. And that's why I like this alliance so much, and that's why I wanted to do a podcast where we highlight them. But so I think I'm going to do that one for there. And I feel comfortable in this, and I'm glad we got all members of the All Black Alliance covered in this episode, because I think that, you know, they are really the stars here, and I think this is really great work from them. It's a great debut of them working together on a vote for different reasons, but it's very entertaining. So, funniest moment.
Oh. This is a hard one for me too, because it's you know what, I think the funniest moment for me is when Alex and Dreams are talking and Earl walks up and says, we need the pot. why are y'all over here? Like, y'all have been away from camp too damn long. Like, we need the pot. Like, get you go to you.
Yeah, I think I just have to agree with you on that. I think it's the emphasis of we need the pot that pushes it over the edge. Like, if it wasn't for that, I think I would just go with Edgardo's face dropping, which I know that was meant to be funny, but I found that hilarious. But I do think that the we need the pot pushes that moment as the best moment of the episode.
Oh, this one is hard for me. I did like that moment. I agree. That is a funny moment. I was going to go with the argument between Mookie and Dreams, where he's talking about how Alex expects the idol from him now, and like, what is he supposed to say? And Dreams, like, without hesitation, is like, you're supposed to say no. Like, why am I teaching you how to play Survivor? Like, that was very funny to me. And the pot is a funny moment as well. And you know, oddly enough, I wasn't even thinking about the tribal council reactions, but that's just because I like think of it as its own defining moment. But I'm gonna go with that. The reactions to the Edgardo votes, I think that is a timeless classic here.
Yeah.
So I do like that whole segment, like, perfect tribal council. No notes here. All right. So let me pull this up, because I want to go through the names with you, but their final vote here, our final award, is who wins our favorite episode of all time? Who is the winner? Now, I will go through our previous winners here before we crown somebody.
Yeah.
So the premiere winner was the Full Moto Tribe. Aaron, you made that decision with me because we couldn't distinguish a winner between them, and they got the nice camp. Episode 2 is Mookie. Episode 3 is Michelle. 4 is Lacey. 5 is Earl. 6 it was Cassandra. 7 was Yowman. 8 was Dreams. And then episode 9, our last episode, Dreams was also the winner, and that made him our first 2-time winner of our episode. So now we are on It's a Turtle. Who is our episode winner? I think there are a lot of good options here.
Yeah.
There's two. I feel like
there's two I'm deciding between. Yeah.
There's two avenues here. Because one avenue is you give it to Stacey, because Stacey has the best. That one moment is the best moment we see from someone this episode. Or you can look at who is consistently the best all episode. which is that it's a struggle because those two avenues are both very valid here.
Who would you award it if you were going? Who was like the best like the non-Stacy option? Who would be your choice here? I think I have my mind made up, but I want to hear what you two are thinking first.
I mean,
well,
I feel
yeah.
like the two options for that avenue, to me, it's either Earl or Cassandra. The two options in that avenue. So.
What about you, Aaron? Have you thought about? I think my mind is made up after our discussions through the episode, but I want to hear, just like, you don't even have to make a decision right now, but what is your line of thinking currently?
I'm trying to decide between Stacy and Cassandra, because Cassandra, I think without that reward and being able to, you know, actually have a conversation with the members of the syndicate, leaving Earl at camp to watch for everything. I don't know if this vote successfully happens the way that it does. I just feel like she really set up the dynamics and, unknowingly to her, pushed Mookie so far over to the husband side that they really just started getting sloppy and made some really very, very baseline mistakes because their anger towards Cassandra was so high. But then I'm also like, she did a lot of good, but like she also got a lot of undeserved backlash.
Yeah. Do you want to know?
Kind of left. And so I feel like Stacy and Cassandra are in similar positions because they both were called out by people or disliked by people, but also Stacy was able to get back. Stacy had an upward trajectory, whereas I think Cassandra was a net positive, but Edgardo's going to the jury very mad at Cassandra. So I don't know if that ultimately does any favors, but I don't know.
It's hard, but then Cassandra, we've also got to balance her. She does very well at the reward challenge as well. There's so much stuff to consider with Cassandra. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So do you want to know what my decision? Well, who my vote is going for?
Yeah.
So I do think that Cassandra had a lot of positive this episode, and I do not begrudge her for like not being liked by Mookie, Edgardo, and Alex. I think they are just looking for reasons to not like her at this point. And like, I know like technically I should value their opinions because like, especially Edgardo, because he's on the jury officially, but I don't particularly care. And I don't think there's anything Cassandra could have done to garner favor with them anyway. So I think that like she killed it this episode, and I just don't think Mookie, Alex, and Edgardo are players that we're ever going to like root for her success anyway. But so I don't begrudge her for that. However, my vote is for Stacy because I think she responded to everything as she should have, including all of the hate that she got at the very beginning of the episode with the touchy subjects segment. I think that like, even though she is not the most pleasant presence that we have gotten up to this point, like she started off really rough with like when her and Lacey were on the same tribe together, but I am really enjoying her right now, and I think she has three moments that I think really solidify for me is that like she is reacting the way she should to the answers that she was getting, which is look at what people are saying, and even if you don't agree with it, find ways to improve and curry favor with the majority alliance. I think she did the right thing in recognizing that despite Alex's best efforts to convince her otherwise, she does not owe him anything, and she needs to go with the majority alliance, and she's not afraid to recognize what is best for herself. So I think that is also very important. And then finally, the why don't we vote Edgardo vote. This was a game-changing decision, and then hearing us all sing her praises about just how important this decision is in a season that does not have a previous season to go on for how to maneuver this idol. So for that reason, and I will be very happy with a Cassandra win as well, but my vote is for Stacey.
I think I agree. Landing on Stacey does make sense. Stacey enters this episode, like at the start of this episode, Stacey has no winner equity in this show whatsoever.
Yeah.
There is no universe in which Stacey, against anyone, even if it was the final two, I don't think she could have beat anyone in the jury. I feel like even Cassandra, considering at that stage of the game, even if it was all a jury of Edgardos, I feel like Cassandra still has more of a chance than Stacey at the start of this episode. But Stacey's managed to put herself in a position now where she actually has some winner equity. There is now a path for her to win this game. So the fact she's managed to create herself this, along with the additional stuff she does throughout the episode, I think Stacey is probably the right call. Just inching out over Cassandra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for Stacey's redemption arc, and I just think, especially because a lot of players in her position would probably really fumble.
Yeah.
And be at the same or even worse position. So the fact that she was able to start from like rock bottom and not only get back in people's good graces, but enough to be able to put out a suggestion and they go with it. And it's like this game-changing thing that really works out for them this episode. Stacey really did that. So definitely, if ever I get into a bad position in a game I play in the future, I look to the way that Stacey carried herself and use that as inspiration. So I vote for Stacey as well.
And that is not even like a hypothetical. We have seen players like completely blow their spots on like rewards or who they choose on rewards or not being picked for rewards or reacting to not like liking the
I have
answers
this
that were
mint
given.
in my mouth. Do you want
Yes,
it?
exactly. Exactly. Like this is not even a hypothetical. There are so many ways that Stacey could have blown this for herself and make herself even more of like a liability to other people or just like inconsequential. And just the rise that she has in this episode is, even though it wasn't the focus of this episode, she made herself an important figure in this alliance. And I love that for her. So yes, I think that is, even though I don't think that between Earl, Cassandra, and Stacey, and even Dreams to an extent, just because of how much impact he had in the episode, I don't think there's a wrong answer. But I do think that Stacey is just so impressive here that like she kind of has to be the answer for me here. All right. Yeah. And with that, Stacey is officially on the scorecard for having a winner of the episode. Congratulations to Stacey. Very happy to have you on here for such an iconic episode. And with that, almost 3 hours in, our longest episode thus far. I'm not surprised. I did plan for this to be our longest episode. So
cool.
I have no other plans today because I knew that we would be talking about this episode so much.
Fair.
But thank you both so much for realizing my dream about talking about It's a Turtle in depth like this. This is I could not have asked for a better panel to talk about this episode because I know Survivor Fiji and this episode in particular means as much to both of you as it does to me. And I'm just so happy that I got to share this experience with both of you. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And now with that, Joshua, where can people find you? And is there anything that you would like to promote?
So currently, myself and Naomi, we are recording a podcast all about the Genius. We are going back and we are rewatching all of the seasons. So we are currently midway recording through season 1. So we'll be releasing all of that soon. We've had some great guests. Gia was on an episode that we just did talking about 2 phenomenal episodes of the Genius.
I loved it. It was such a fun time.
So that is going to be coming onto Silent Podcast at some point in the nearish future. And if you want to see any of my reality television takes or anything of the sort, you can follow me on Twitter at JoshieFLX. That is JoshieFLX. Also, I am currently in the midst of prepping a UK live game with my friend Rob. We are finally bringing live games over to the UK. So there'll be a Survivor game, which is happening in just over 4 months.
Ooh.
Just closing like a couple days. So we are contacting our players very, very soon. this is going to be so much fun. If you want to see any details about that, you can follow us on all social media platforms at Survivor Game UK.
All right. Thank you, Joshua. And Aaron, your third time on Fiji Forever.
Yeah.
That is not also including our coverage of Fiji on the RHAP countdown, where Fiji was very lowly ranked compared to where I think it should have been.
Where was it ranked again?
I think we were 27.
28.
28,
yeah.
It
out
was
of 40 at the time.
Out of 40, yeah. So, like, we missed the 30s, which is where I kind of expected because there are just so many people with wrong opinions. But then, like, also, I think we should have been a little higher. And I also just, honestly, Winners at War is ass. Why was it in the top 10? I don't know, but I still hate that.
It was so bad. Why? I'm still mad about that, but yeah.
I know. Yeah. So, but that's fine. It's not anyone's fault except the people that ranked Winners at War so high. So anyway, Aaron, where can people follow you? And I have seen several posts about some of the projects you have planned. So I know there is a lot that you need to promote. So please do so.
Yeah. So I have 2 podcasts that I'm on, and then one that I guest on frequently. And the first one that I do is a podcast called Great Typhoons and Raging Fires. I'm going through a watch of all of the Disney animated movies because I didn't really see a lot of them growing up. So this week, tomorrow's episode will be on The Rescuers, which I have no idea what that's about. So that's going to be fun and exciting to see what that movie is, because no idea. And then if you love Avatar: The Last Airbender, I started a podcast this year called Sparky Bookman, where I am going through all of the published materials of the Avatar series. So I'm making my way through the comic versions of the episodes, and then once I get through those, I move on to all of the extra stories and beyond things and in between stuff that they've released. So pretty cool stuff there. And then Word to the Witches is a podcast where if you like Charmed, we go through the Charmed published materials, and my friends Kevin and Sean host that. It's great. Check it out. And yeah, that's it.
I have to say, I do love The Rescuers, so I cannot wait to listen to that one. That's a good one. There's a couple very underrated Disney movies that I love from the bottom of my heart.
Let me know. I'll have you guessed.
Oh my God. When you get to Atlantis, the Lost Empire, please get me on for that. I love that movie. Obviously Princess and the Frog too, but like that, I have a tattoo of Princess and the Frog, so like that is obvious to me. But then
I'll contact you about that too.
But Atlantis is my shit. Like so good. So good. We are just refined people with refined taste in the proper Disney movies, but like a different discussion for a different day. As always, you can follow me at Classically Gia on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for all of my reality TV shenanigans. This is a Survivor podcast. We are talking about one of, if not the most diverse season in Survivor history. So therefore, you should follow the Survivor Diversity campaign at Serve Diversity. That is at SURV Diversity. Please give it a follow and show us a lot of love and support. We have a great team behind that podcast. I am in the Survivor off season right now, so my regular coverage of Survivor via Inside Survivor and through our podcast, On Silent Podcast, I Don't Know About That, we'll be back in March when season 44 premieres. Very excited to be back and talking about Survivor in our in the real time, and it'll be very exciting to do that. This is our last episode of Black History Month, or before Black History Month. So I'm very excited to be talking about these final episodes of Survivor Fiji in Black History Month. I wanted to originally record all of them in Black History Month, but then I realized that like I would have been an insane person to do that. So this is a much more reasonable time frame, and also I just like would not have been able to do it. Like there's far too much going on at my job in February that I cannot talk about every episode of Fiji during that time, but that's okay. And then finally, speaking of Black excellence, Abbott Elementary is back, and so are me and Chappelle on post-show recaps
Ooh.
with our bi-weekly coverage of episodes. We're talking about 2 episodes at a time. We're on a little bit of a break right now because Abbott is on a break, but we will be back after February 8th, where the next episode is aired, a Valentine's Day episode, and whichever episode comes after that. So stay tuned for updates about when you can expect coverage on that. And with that, almost 3 hours in, this is the conclusion of our favorite episode of all time. It's a Turtle on our episode of Fiji Forever. As I said, we are about to head into Black History Month as we talk about the end game of Survivor Fiji. We have some really great episodes coming up, and this is not the end of game-changing strategy and discussions that are going to be had on Survivor Fiji. So please make sure to stay tuned and check our social media, both Silent Podcast and mine, to stay updated on when you can expect new episodes of Fiji Forever. Thank you all again for your continued support. Thank you to Aaron and Joshua for talking about these very important this very important episode for me, and continuing to talk about Survivor Fiji and all of the work that you have done, past, present, and future in the Survivor community. I am very excited to talk more about the game-changing behavior that is Survivor Fiji, and you can all stay tuned for updates on that very shortly. Thank you all once again for your continued support, and stay tuned for more.